Town of Orangetown Planning Board of July 8th is now in session. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We only have one application tonight. It's the Data Bank Orangeburg Phase 2 Site Plan Review, PB 25-02. Gentlemen, you have an opening statement, or are you going to go through this? You're going to go through this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are.
Okay. I gave you one. Okay, go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, council, staff. My name is Lino Sciaretta, partner with the law firm Blakely, Platt & Schmidt, on behalf of the applicant with the address of 1 Blue Hill Plaza, Pearl River, New York. For ease of introductions, I'm going to start all the way to my left with the introductions of our team.
Trent Suddeth, Kimley Horn.
Tess Strayer, Kimley Horn.
Dan LaFrisco, Kimley Horn.
Tony Corey, Databank.
Dana Smith, Databank.
Joe Horesco, Ascentec.
Paula Blond, Highland Associates.
So, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, again, thank you for having us this evening. This board's familiar with this application. We were last here back in March, I believe, March 25th, when we were going through this application. Since that time, we've had some adjustments. We've been working with your consultants. We've been to some PRC meetings with respect to this application, but it's important just to regroup, since we haven't been here in a while, just to outline for the board where we're at today. As you all know, this is phase 2 of a project that this board, if you recall, back in 2022, approved phase 1 of the data center, same client. That data center of phase 1 was approximately 145,000 square feet in size. The original concept back then was to go to the exact same mirror image of a building for phase 2. When we were at phase 1 during our time before your board, we went through a lot of analyses, and then ultimately it was determined that we couldn't build phase 2 as it was configured. So what we did, we went back and basically reduced the size of the phase 2 project by half. So the current projected size and the current size of the proposed building is 77,000 square feet and 862,000 square feet. So 77,862 with a 4,900 square foot office space. A couple of things that we've heard, and I'm sure we'll hear a lot tonight. We've heard about this project not being zoned in the LIO. This project, as well as Bloomberg Phase 1, which are built, were all determined back in 2009 to be permitted uses under the LIO with respect to a business use. And again, you have 2 data centers at least in the zone to prove it. There will be variances that we need, same exact variances that we needed for Phase 1 with respect to loading berths, parking, and loading berths that are not enclosed. So I just want to say a couple of things before we go into we have a slideshow that we just want to present this evening. Again, there's been a lot of misinformation out there in social media. As Matt, it's off the charts what I've seen in terms of the misinformation that's out there about data centers and this project. A lot of it we've heard at the last meeting through public comments. We believe we addressed those, but we'll go through it again tonight. But again, this board's the land use board. A lot of the comments that you heard, and we'll probably hear them again tonight, no matter what we say, you'll probably hear those same comments come up and they'll be stated. So I wanted you all to be aware of that because, again, there is misinformation out there. It is social media, and it's not the beacon of reliability, as we all know. So your job is to look at the application, look at the facts, look at what we mitigated, and proceed from there. So with respect to that, this, at the end of the day, is a land use application. It's not a popularity contest. This is not your first rodeo. This board's approved projects before. You've done your due diligence, and again, it's about land use at this point. So without further ado, I'm just going to go to the first slide, Trent. So we're here tonight seeking preliminary approval and a negative declaration. So first a negative declaration, then preliminary approval, so we can proceed with this project to the next step, to the ZBA for our variances, similar to what we did during the Phase 1 application. So as we stated in the slide, it's the same lead agency. You are, same site. You made this determination for Phase 1, and you remain the lead agency for Phase 2. Now, there was questions about segmentation, which we keep hearing about. So if you recall, those members who were there back in 2022, we were looking at Phase 1 and also Phase 2, and this team looked at a build-out for water, sewer, stormwater, parking for both phases at 145,000 square feet for Phase 1 and 146,000 for Phase 2. So all those impacts, again, were looked at. Now, here we are today, okay, at a footprint that's half the size. We haven't expanded the footprint. It's actually smaller than what we contemplated. And if you recall, the original plans called for a new substation. Now, with the reduced size of this project, we have no new substation, no stream, wetland, corridor impact, no watercourse diversion permit. All of those have been taken away. So there's no longer the need for any of those elements of this project. And again, as I was saying, the finding must rest on the facts. Any outstanding technical comments or clarifications, they're not evidence of new significant adverse impacts. And as a matter of fact, when you read those comment memos, we haven't heard of any new significant impacts with respect to this project, particularly at its reduced size. Next slide. So zoning and parking is consistent with the Phase 1 approval. Again, the ZBA approved the data center office use on September 21, 2022, conditioned on setting aside 671 land bank spaces. Phase 2 meets that commitment. We do provide for 671 land bank plus 69 stripe spaces. And again, land banking. Land banking is an exhibit, it's a conceptual future scenario. So any change, so right before we came along, Verizon was there for many years on Corporate Drive. So if an office use wanted to go back, okay, guess what? They have to come back. The applicant has to come back before your board for any change of use. Any new application has to come before your board. So we provide the land bank for that contingency should another use come by years from now, or may never happen, but the contingency is there. Your 2023 comp plan also contemplates data centers in this district. And again, as I talked about earlier, the 3 variances requested, which was also consistent with Phase 1. Next slide. And for this next slide, I'm going to turn it over to Dan, who could talk about the simpler Phase 2 than was originally proposed. Dan? Why don't you?
Thank you, Leo. As Leo mentioned, the project has been downsized roughly half of the original conceptual project. So the data center footprint itself is roughly 77,000 square feet, office space 5,000 square feet. Standby power generator yard, which would be for emergency uses only, is also cut in half. No new need for a new electrical substation, which we'll speak more on later during the power demand and utilities segment. We are avoiding a stream diversion permit. In other words, we're no longer disturbing the existing settling basin on the site. Wetland permits, due to the reduced footprint, the smaller limited disturbance, and recent changes in regulations with wetlands in the state, no longer require state permitting for the wetlands on the site. And then also, similar to Phase 1, consistent with the same ZBA variances, the zoning that we would ask for a waiver or exemption on is related to loading berth enclosures, loading berth counts, and parking counts. Obviously, the data center use does not need or require nearly as many parking stalls as the light industrial zone prescribes, so that's the reason for the land banking exhibit. And the current parking field that's already installed as part of Phase 1 is adequate to support the future staff and trip generation for the site, which would not have an impact to the local community's traffic or traffic circulation in and around the neighborhood. So all this adds up to reducing the impact to the environment, to the community, having descaled the project, and doing our best within good design and feasibility to avoid impacts and mitigation to the environment. Next slide, please. This is just a simplified exhibit, aerial view of the proposed project, the proposed building in relation to the existing facility, which is fully constructed and operational in the gray, the proposed footprint there in the blue, and you can see that we've maintained to the greatest extent possible distances and clearances from sensitive or adjacent uses. So from the south, we're 300 feet away from the nearest residential property to the south, 300 feet football field length of distance, which relative to the nearest neighbor, which is the Bloomberg facility, that's roughly 237, 240 feet. So we're additional 60 feet further away from that boundary. And between us and the residential property, we're also maintaining a natural vegetated buffer, wooded buffer, and that's 100 feet buffer. And then between that buffer and the curb line of the access road, we're also proposing a landscape strip, which is another 70 feet on top of a 5-foot berm, and that will be planted with native plantings. So all those things add to the screening and to the sound attenuation, which we will also talk about later. From the lake, consistent with Phase 1, we're actually a little bit further away than the Phase 1 project was previously approved, so we're 260 feet from the shoreline of the lake. Lino mentioned we no longer need to propose another additional substation on the site. The existing substation on the property will remain and has adequate capacity, and we will also explain that in further detail later in the presentation. And then to the south east corner of the property, you'll see on the plans, there is a stormwater management basin and infiltration basin, which we verified with field conditions, can adequately support water quantity and water quality from the stormwater runoff of the property, and none of which discharges towards the lake. It all discharges on the site and into the basin, and that's sized in accordance with the New York State DEC Stormwater Design Manual, and subject to the review of the town's Department of Engineering, DEME. I also want to add that the existing utilities for water and sewer were used for connection of the existing Phase 1 and will be continued use for Phase 2. No new utility extensions for water and sewer are necessary into Corporate Drive, and we'll speak more on that later as well. Okay, next slide. Just mentioning one topic that came up in previous meetings. The lighting that was noticed and brought to our attention around the generator yard of Phase 1 was looked at and correctly needed to be adjusted. So simply, we needed to turn the lights off. The generator yard equipment lighting was on at night unnecessarily. It only needs to be on when it's an emergency use, or it needs to be the safety of the technicians that need to get to the generator yards. So lighting and controls were installed, and the lights are off when not in use at night, greatly reducing the visual impact at night from the existing facility. For the new Phase 2, there's a commitment to use dark sky compliant 3,000 Kelvin light fixture. Just means warm light fixtures, unabrasive coloring light fixtures, and downward shielded fixtures to keep the lighting from escaping the boundary of the property. So in other words, the light levels at the perimeter of the project drop to zero. I mean, it's pitch black. And again, the landscaping, screening and berm between the naturally vegetated wooded buffer, the 100-foot setback, and the proposed access driveway is in addition to the separation that we have to the south. So all those things continue to screen from the perspective from the south. And the generator yard itself has a screened fence. So layers of screening between any perspective. Going into energy, yeah.
Thank you. Next slide here is energy, and as Dan and Lino both explained, we had submitted originally in a larger building, which included an expansion or a build of a new substation, which was 60 megawatts. The plan was to take the power from the existing sub, swing it over to a new substation, and then give that existing substation back to Orange and Rockland. Since we reduced the footprint and the capacity of the building, we no longer had to build that secondary substation. The existing substation has enough capacity on it to serve the building, both Phase 1 and Phase 2. That existing substation also had enough capacity to serve Verizon, who is the previous landowner on that premises. They had 45 megawatt of utility dedicated to them. They just never ramped into that consumption. The only thing that was done from the time that we purchased that property to this point in time is Orange and Rockland went up and did a circuit breaker upgrade and a transformer upgrade. That work is already done. The cost was burdened upon us as the developer. Nothing beyond that was completed. In January of 2026, O&R corresponded. They issued a will serve letter. We have that letter on file. It's been submitted. And when we talk from a generation perspective, obviously in an emergency scenario when there's an outage, those generators are there to serve the data center. But as far as a monthly operation or use, we are operating those generators less than 148 hours of runtime per unit per year. And that's also per local code and DEQ requirements. If you look at the table on the right, just to give an estimated annual electricity use, Phase 1, 214,445 megawatt hours. Again, about 20 megawatts, just a little over, which is their existing. And the proposed Phase 2 is another 107,222 megawatt hours, which is another 10 megawatts of usage, electricity usage.
So again, because of the reduced footprint of the project, we will require less utility demand. And back when we proposed on Phase 1, we actually submitted our will-serve letters for the full build-out. So the commitments from the utility provider for Veolia for water are still valid because they already committed to providing water service for the full build-out, which is now reduced. So we're actually asking for less demand. There's already an existing connection on the site, which we're going to reuse. We're not asking for a new water utility connection. And the water service that we had requested and was approved is already installed, it's metered, and it's active today. So for those reasons, in our correspondence with Veolia, they are not requiring an updated will-serve letter. We are adequately supplied with water coming from the Veolia municipal system. Nothing comes directly to or from the lake at all, and we are just going to simply reuse the on-site water distribution system for the Phase 2. Similarly with sanitary, again, the commitments from, in this case, the township for sanitary discharge were validated during the full master plan request, and we're actually going to be needing less demand, and therefore the town engineer can review our application and reiterate that the capacity for sanitary discharge is adequate for now our reduced needs. And then stormwater, I mentioned, will comply with all applicable regulations of the New York State Design Manual and to the satisfaction of the town's engineering department.
Just to add on to that, as part of the water usage and some of the kind of misconceptions that are out there, you know, everybody in the industry is talking about the use of water and that data centers are gobbling up water. There's talks about, hey, we're going to drain Lake Tapan. I just wanted to present some tangible statistics, you know, real data. What I have here in front of me and part of our submission is our organization through our marketing group has published an ebook called The Truth About Data Centers. I provided some copies. I'd like to hand them out at the end of this. Yeah. I'll slow it down for everybody here. But if you look at the data there, again, tangible data, if you look at closed-loop data center sites such as the one we're proposing, is about 608,000 gallons of water a year in consumption. That's wastewater, washing your hands, using the sink, some dehumidification in the data halls. That equates to about 1,665 gallons of use per day. If you look in the submission, the numbers are a little off from what's skewed here, and that's because it's submitted at worst-case scenario. What we're going in for permitting purposes is 69 occupants in the building. So when you take the data and scale it back, it's 607,725 gallons per year. If you take that statistic and you compare it, 5 households in the region actually use about 730,000 gallons of water per year, which is more than what our data center is proposing. A movie theater is about 935,000 gallons of water per year. And a local golf course actually is just under 5.5 million gallons of water a year. So if you look at some of the tangible data and the statistics, it will show that that closed-loop system is actually consuming and using a lot less water than multiple items mentioned. So I'd like to share this, whatever the public and the board likes to do with the document, that's fine. I just wanted to print out and provide hard copies for everybody here.
Yeah, and just to the board to where that package was provided to the board prior to tonight's meeting, was included in my letter, so you do have it, but again, we just brought hard copies in case anybody wants them.
One last thing, Dan, I don't know if you touched on that, but Veolia has already supplied that there's an adequate water supply for the full build-out. There's no Lake Tapan draw. Again, it's a closed-loop water system. I'd love to answer any questions, even if it's as a sidebar to anybody that would like to go through some of those statistics. But I just want to present the facts versus misconceptions there.
So as we've been discussing, the redesign of Phase 2 has reduced impacts to aquatic resources on site. The initial design impacted all the resources on site, wetland 1, 2, and the Lake Tapan tributary. We have reduced the permanent impacts to the isolated system, that's wetland 2, that's in the center of the site. In April 2026, NYSDEC's 11 criteria of unusual importance was redacted, reverting back to the previous wetland regulations, which NYSDEC can regulate wetlands over 12.4 acres. So this wetland is no longer regulated by DEC, which we confirmed in June 2026. Additionally, this is an isolated system, so we obtained a JD from the Army Corps, which determines the jurisdictional status of resources on site. So wetland 1 and the tributary are USACE regulated, but wetland 2 is not regulated. So this means that no permit is required by either DEC or the Army Corps. Moving on to bald eagles, I was part of the team that was completing the eagle monitoring. There was a nest that was formerly located in a maple tree off-site. This nest was destroyed in a storm a few years ago. So my team did several seasons of eagle monitoring, which did not observe any eagles nesting on the site. And we confirmed this with the appropriate agencies to confirm that the nest no longer warrants any eagle buffers or protections.
You mentioned the eagle's nest that was destroyed in a storm. The eagle's nest is back. Okay. It's,
Excuse me, if you want to make noise, have fun, please leave the building so everybody else can hear what the gentleman's saying now. Thank you.
the eagle's nest is back, okay? I suppose that it's a nesting eagle's nest, which means they're here part of the year, and the other part of the year they leave and come back. So with that respect, the eagle's nest is back, and I think you know from the phase one what you're going to have to do to monitor that eagle's nest. Okay?
We will take this back and look into it.
We haven't any evidence of this, so we'd have to visit the site and observe that and document that.
I'm sure that AKRF will probably get a hold of the DEC so that they can confirm the nest that's there. Okay? Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Moving along then, we did take a look at the sounds at the site. We've, you've heard testimony already about the generator use being, regular testing, the number of hours that goes for each generator, and otherwise they are reserved for emergency use. But we've looked into the sounds from both of them. They've been reported on. We've added the new building, LGA4, to our model, so we have sound data that's shown for the existing LGA3 plus the LGA4 and the cumulative of them, in addition to whatever the existing ambient was that we've measured. So we've gone back, we've measured ambient, added all those things together. Those have all been reported. AKR has reviewed all of this. They've noted that they're, within that DEC guidelines. We're well below township code. We're below the New Jersey limits as well. So everything there has been satisfied. And as part of that, we did add some noise control to the building. There's a 15-foot solid screen law being planned on that south building to help block that noise to the south residences. And again, our study is really focused on the residential receivers. We've spent a lot of time, a lot of pages of paper here that went back and forth with AKRF and making sure we've addressed all of that. And then the places where some of the sounds were a little bit higher but still below code were places where the residents aren't going to be. The adjacent data center, the baseball field could be occupied for games, but that's during the day, and the sound levels from the cooling equipment are going to be below the ambient during those conditions. So we think we've shown that this is not as big of an impact.
So again, just to recap, we've been at this a while, members of the board, and with respect to this application, this is a much smaller footprint that was originally contemplated when we were doing phase one and discussing this back in 2022. There's no new substation that's required here, no stream diversion. We talked about the wetlands, no permits are required now for that. In terms of the local resources, no new energy source. Okay, we don't draw from Lake Tapan. Again, I've seen that over and over again, heard it, seen it on social media. No rapid cooling, no regulated wetland impacts. And with respect to energy, noise, lighting, and traffic, this has all been addressed in an extensive record, and we mitigated those impacts. Another thing that I also saw on social media that, again, has nothing to do with land use, but I know the last time we were doing this, people mentioned about how data bank, this was a pilot, they didn't pay their fair share of taxes. Also false, because there was no pilot on the data bank project, and I pulled the tax records just so the board's aware. Again, it's not relevant for what you have to do, but again, just to dispel some of the comments that will probably be made tonight with respect to their fair share of taxes. Data bank, in the past 5 years, from 2022 to 2026, paid a total of $5.2 million to town, county, and school district taxes at full assessed value. So again, no pilot with respect to this project, so any comments to that are just simply false. It's just like the falsity of the fact that we're taking water from Lake Tapan. So the other thing is, too, phase one, again, we spent a lot of time in phase one. We spent equal enough time on phase two. This phase, we all know, it's a much smaller project, and it's a project that doesn't impact schools, it financially benefits the schools, has no traffic impact, okay, and we have data centers that are there now with respect to this area. So, same thing, there's been no ID of any significant adverse impacts that were not previously analyzed or that were unique from the modified phase two proposal. We looked at those issues on phase one, and in phase one, you guys issued a negative declaration with respect to that project. Now, what we respectfully ask this board is, we've been here, you've heard it all. What we'd like tonight, hopefully, is to this board to adopt a negative declaration on a much smaller project and grant us preliminary site plan approval so we can move on to zoning. So I know you have a lot of folks here tonight to comment, but that's our presentation. We'll reserve our comments at the end, at the conclusion, to address any public comments, but we appreciate the board's time and thank you for listening.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me go through the consultants' reports. The Orangetown Planning Consultant, signed by Ashley Lee, dated July 2nd, 2026, has 69 comments. The full EAS form, dated 6/2026, prepared by Tony Cord, Data Bank Vice President. Dated, the original version was November 13th, 2024, last revised June 29th, 2026. I have a comment correspondent letter from AKRF prepared by Kimball Horn, dated June 17th, 2026. I have a sound report letter prepared by Antech, dated June 16th, 2026. I have a letter from Beakley Platt Schmidt LP, signed by Lino Scary, I'm sorry, Esquire, dated June 12th, 2026, with the Truth About Data Centers document. I have a wetlands jurisdiction letter from New York State DEC prepared by Ellen Hart, dated June 12th, 2026. An email correspondent from Viola, dated June 12th, 2026. A letter from Rockland County Department of Planning prepared by Kimberly Horn, dated June 17th, 2026. A letter from Clifford Davis, attorney at law, dated June 1st with an exhibit. I have another letter, which is public comment emails from 35 people using a template email from messagewtwatch.org, May 26, 2026 to July 8th, 2026. They were all opposed to this project. I have public comment email from 3 people modifying the template email dated May 26, 2026 to July 8, 2026, also opposed. I have public comment email from Angela Sheridan from Old Tappan dated July 8, 2026. Public comment email from Vanessa Leppins dated July 7, 2026. Public comment email from James Riley, Pearl River, dated July 7th, 2026. Public comment email from James Riley, Pearl River, July 7th, 26. Public comment letters from David Rosen, Old Tappan, July 6, 2026. I have public comment email from Chris Komblaski and family, Old Tappan, July 7th, 26. Public comment email from Patrick Gamberty, July 7th, 26. Public comment email from Josephine Cone, July 7th, 26. Public comment email from Clifford Davis, July 6, 26, and FEAF Part 2. Public comment email from Stephen Jackson, Northvale, July 6, 2026. Public comment email from Ellen Lutkvek, July 6, 26. Public comment email from Laura Patkin, Nyack, July 4th, 26. Public comment email from Anonymous Bogus Norm, Clarkstown resident, July 3rd, who supports the project. Public comment email from Mike Madden, New City, July 1, 26. Public comment email from Robert O'Connor, Piermont, June 29th, 26. Public comment email from Jeanette Yavoski, dated June 24th, 26. Public comment email from Stefan Palumbo, June 24th, 26. Public comment email from Britta Voss from Nyack, June 21st, 26. Public comment from Betsy Longerdorf, Northvale, June 21st, 26. Public comment email with Karen Gazort, Orangeburg, June 20th, 26. Public comment email from Helen Koshberg, June 19th, 26. Public comment email from Evelyn De La Rosa, Japan, June 17th, 26. Public comment letter from Stephen Hosford, Pearl River, June 12th, 26. I have an article prepared by New York, New Jersey Data Center Crisis Coalition dated June 11th, 26. A public comment email from Christian Lino, Nyack resident, June 9th, 26. Public comment email from Jane Fuller and Steve Vulaski, June 9th, 26. Public comment email from Sonia Caro, June 9th, 26. Public comment from Janie Olan, June 9th, 26. Public comments from Lawrence Cohen from Old Tappan, June 9th, 2026. Public comments from Karen Steinmetz from Nyack, June 8th, 26. Public comments from Barbara Stanford and Edwin Lasser, Piermont, June 8th, 26. Public comments from Mario Rocco, Old Tappan, June 8th, 26. Public comments from Britta Voss, Nyack, June 8th, 26. I have public comments from Dennis Malone, Nyack, June 8th, 26. Public comments from Karen Kozlovo, Orangeburg, June 8th, 26. Public comment email from Lee Hawkridge, June 8th, 26. Public comments from Michael Andrew Blavelt, June 7th, 26. Public comments from Yusha Morales, Orangeburg, June 5th, 26. Public comments from Dana Malone, June 1, 26. Public comment voicemail from Ann Clary, May 29th, 26. Public comment email from Alex Demira, June 1, 26, with documents, please release Edge Energy launches in the U.S. with 4 ultra-efficient AL-ready data centers. Dated June 1, 26. Public comments from Molly Malay, June 1, 26. Public comments from Gary McLaren, May 28th, 26. Public comments from Catherine Standoff, May 27th, 26. Public comments from Elizabeth Dudley, May 27th, 26. Okay, I have letters on record from May 27th to the Planning Board. Orangetown Building Inspector Rick Oliver, dated May 11th, 1 comment. Orangetown ZBA, Rick Oliver, dated March 9th, 12 comments. Orangetown DME, Bruce Peters, dated May 1, 2 comments. Orangetown Planning Consultant, signed by Ashley Lee, dated May 27th, 1 comment. Orangetown Planning Consultant Ashley Lee, dated May 12th, 69 comments. I have Rockland County Department of Planning, signed by Douglas Schultz, dated May 21st, with 31.1 comments. I have a letter from Rockland County Center of Environmental Management, dated May 27th, with 3 comments. I have a letter from Clarkstown Planning Board, dated May 18th, local determination. I have a reference sheet from Rockland County Department of Planning.
But I believe you've already read those comments into on the May 27th meeting.
They were already
I don't know that
read
we
in?
need to go into all the previously read-in comments.
Okay, I didn't think they were read in. Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, I didn't hear.
I
Okay,
guess the meeting
all right.
was postponed. So.
Okay, now, where was I? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Town of Clarkstown Planning Board, son Brian Metcalf, dated May 18th, 26, local determination. I have a reference sheet from Rockland County Department of Planning, dated April 27th, 26, comments attached. I have a consent lead agent letter from Rockland County Department of Planning, dated April 27th, which consents for Orangetown Planning Board to serve as lead agent. I have a full assessment, Part 3, prepared by Kimberly Horn, dated February 2nd, revised April 15th, 26. I have a full assessment form prepared November 13th, 24, revised April 14th, 26. I have a comment response letter from AKRF prepared by Kimberly Horn, dated April 15th. I have a sound report letter prepared by Antrix, dated April 2nd, 2026. Excuse me. I have a comment response letter by Building Department prepared by Kimberly Horn, April 15th, 26. Comment response letter from Rockland County Department of Planning, prepared by Kimberly Horn, dated April 15th. Comment response letter from DEME, prepared by Kimberly Horn, dated April 15th, 26. Comment response letter from DEC Sewer District Number 1, prepared by Kimberly Horn, dated April 15th, 26. A letter from Blakely, Platt, and Smith, LLP, signed by Lino Scarati, dated May 15th, 26. A letter from Clifford Davis, Attorney at Law, dated May 21st, 26, with Exhibit A. I have a public comment email from 281 people using the template email from message.wfox.org from May 11th, 2026 to May 27th, 2026. They were all opposed. I have public comment email from 13 people modifying the template dated May 11th, 26 to May 27th, 26. They are opposed. I have a public comment email from Stefan Palumbo, Nyack resident, dated May 27th, 26. I have a public comment email from Mike Madden, May 27th, 26. Public comment letter from Matthew Heinlein from Tapan, dated May 27th, 26. Public comment email from Mario Rocco, May 26th, 26. Public comment email from Mrs. and Mrs. Rod Johnson from Piermont, dated May 26, 26. I have a public comment email from Robert O'Connor, Piermont, May 26, 2026. Public comment letter from Chris Koblaski and family from Old Tapan, May 26, 2026. Public comment email from Wendy Slaman and David Linder, Piermont, May 23rd, 26. Public comment email from Martin Heller in Blauvelt, May 23rd, 2026. Public comment email from Joseph and Cassie Herbert dated May 21st, 2026. Public comment email from Clifford Davis dated May 21st, 26, with attachments matter of Rand Sand and Stone Corp. Versus Vicino. I have a public comment email from David Steinmetz dated May 20th, 26. Public comment email from Greta Nettleton, Palisades resident, May 17th, 26. Okay, read those. I have public comment letter from David Rosen, Old Tapan, dated May 15th, 26. Public comment email from Tony Frankovlin, dated May 14th, 26, to support the project. I have a letter from, a public comment email from Marie Ironside, Tapan, May 12th, 26. Public comment letter from David Rosen, Old Tapan, dated May 4th, 26. Public comment email from Mike Madden, April 20th, 26. Public comment email from Jacob Turnberm from Tapan, dated April 19th, 26. Well, read into the record. Okay, the rest is read into the record. Okay, I'm going to open it up to the board members. Any questions or comments?
I have a few questions. In your presentation under the energy, no new source capacity already in place, you have 148 hours generator runtime per unit per year, is that?
That's correct. That's under the maintenance
So that-
model.
Is that all the generators?
Per
Or is that
unit.
just for phase two?
It's per unit, per year. It's consistent with what our program was in the Phase 1 submission.
So all the generators,
That's
that's
correct.
13 plus 8.
And that's how it's permitted with the DEQ.
So they're not going to run all at the same time?
No, it's one at a time. You do a monthly burn-in, one generator at a time. The only time your generators would run all, it won't be all, there's redundancy built in, is in a massive blackout in the community where we'd have to transfer the generator or an outage of some sort.
Okay.
As far as maintenance, yes, one at a time.
In the DEC report dated June 12, 2026, this is the report that says you don't need any permits or anything for the wetlands. But on the bottom of the page, on the first page, it says DEC will continue to review the project subject to Article 19 air pollution control permit. What's up with that? They're also saying that you can't start this project unless you get this, this Article 19 straightened out. So I don't understand what that is. The DEC letter, June 12, 2026. At the bottom of the first page, it says DEC will continue to review the project subject to Article 19 air pollution control permit. I'm assuming that you You put in a permit for the air control, for the air pollution? Correct, yeah. So that was done 12/17/2025. I believe you put the permit in. You still don't have any answers for that? Because they say right here that you can't go forward until you get that permit resolved. So I'm just asking you guys, what's going on?
So the DEC has advised that they would continue reviewing our air permitting, air regulations after a secret determination and preliminary site plan approval, which is what Phase 1 went through, is also just because it's part of the air regulations for the facility. But to my knowledge, I'm not the air permitting expert, but to my knowledge, we don't cross over any thresholds that, yeah.
So you don't
It's an administrative filing for the generator system.
There is a permit, right? that
For
you
the
file
generator,
for?
air emissions, yeah.
For the air control, okay.
Yes.
So, but you don't know where it stands right now?
It's not, it's under review pending proceeding with this
Since last
site plan
year.
approval.
You need a neg deck and preliminary. Just like Phase 1, when we did this, they entertained it after we got preliminary and a neg deck for the permitting, same thing. They're not going to make a determination until the local agency makes their call with respect to secret.
Okay, I understand. You went to Veolia about the water. You're going to use 6,200 and some odd gallons per day.
Yeah, that
What
was.
is that for?
Go ahead, sorry.
What is the 6,000 gallons of water per day?
So that
Excuse me.
information is,
Go ahead.
that information's based on the occupancy that we calculate to determine full use of the building. The numbers we... Sure. The actual usage, we revised the data to show the actual occupants within the building. So we design it towards, the permitting process and calculations. And then the actual usage is a lower number that's less than the 6,000 per day.
And if you reference the data that I mentioned earlier, it was at 69 occupants for permitting. That totals 607,725,000 gallons per year, which equates to a total of 1,665 gallons per day.
Okay.
But the calculations are done to assume that you're going to have a full occupant capacity. So we have to size everything for sanitation, usage, egress out of the building. So we comply with all those requirements, but the actual usage based on the actual occupant count within the building is a significantly lower number.
So none of that water is going to be used for cooling or anything like that? Because of your closed loop system?
Your first fill will have consumption of the loop, but after that, it is a closed loop system, correct?
All right. So that's 6,000 gallons. Is that for both facilities, Phase 1 and Phase 2?
Yes.
Or is it going to increase when you open up Phase 2?
The calculations were for both buildings.
Okay. I don't have anything right now. Anything more?
Okay, thank you, Andy. Lisa, question or comments?
Yeah, I just first want to address Lino's comment about social media and getting information off of social media. Just to make it clear to everyone here, as planning board members, we have a legal responsibility to evaluate this application based on zoning regulations, the applicable laws, and the information in the record, okay? So not by what we read on social media or what we get off of the internet. We also can't evaluate this project based on whether we personally like or dislike the project. So I just want to put that out there. I just have a few questions, and then I'm going to wait to hear from public comment. So in terms of the variances, why are the outdoor loading berths necessary?
They're just unenclosed, they're not inside the building, consistent with Phase 1, and it's really minimal use for the loading berths. You want to elaborate on that, Paul? Yeah.
Yeah, actually, usage for the building doesn't require the full amount of loading docks for the facility, so it's we're matching what we did in the first building.
Mm-hmm. So if you enclose them, then you wouldn't need the variance, am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, one of those variances are to enclose the loading docks.
Right, okay, okay. And is this intended to be the final build-out of this site, or are you planning any future phases being considered after this?
This is the final intended build-out of the site.
I also had the same questions as Andy about the DEC's letter, and I don't have anything further right now.
Okay, thank you, please. Mike, anything?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Working? Okay. All right, in reference to the FEAF revised 2026, dated June 29th to 26, page 7, D2G2, quote, as calculated in the air permit application, the proposed action has the potential to emit, and your answer was none. However, D2F3 lists the diesel-fired emergency generators as the source of air emissions and diesel fuel combustion. Those emissions contain all 5 listed pollutants that are shown in the FEAF. Further, your pre-construction air permit application, DEC number ID 3-3924-00119, dated May 2025, revised January 26, shows CO2 equivalents for CO2, CH4, and NOZ at 3,314 tons a year for all generators hourly. The second chart on that last page also shows the maximum total of greenhouse gas emissions for all generators total at 42,478 tons a year, which is above the total 10,000 metric tons in subdivision H of that form. Can you explain why the amounts of the emissions were not listed for the first group of 5 emissions that are listed on the FEAF? Also, there are apparently the emissions for greenhouse gases total over 10,000 metric tons, and that was left blank. And if it was not over 10,000, what were the amounts of CO2 equivalents? Can somebody answer that for me?
I'm sorry, I can jump in too between Paul and I, but what's the question on that? I heard a few questions out of that. What is the question?
Well, first, go back to the FEAF. If you go back to, do you have a copy of it there?
Mm-hmm.
Let me get my copy and we can go right along.
Yeah, so I'm looking at an email here between our consultant, Susan Stewart, and the DEC about this EFAF Part 1 for a new revised form that was released in the summer. This is back to just last month, June of 2026. So there has been some back and forth with the DEC. I think that goes back to Mr. Andrews' question about finalizing that documentation. There's a box or two that still needs to be checked there, and I think once that is completed, that's going to answer that question with the raw data you're looking for.
Well, I don't see why the answers couldn't be put into the document if you look.
Yeah, I do believe that was resubmitted post this document you have. Again,
It wasn't in the prior one either, because I had asked for it in the prior one before the revised one, which is the 15-page one versus the 13-page one. I had asked in there why we didn't have the numbers for those five, which is the carbon monoxide, the oxides of nitrogen, particulate matter, volatile organic compounds, and sulfur dioxide, and that was in G2. We asked for that last time. It's still not here, yet we see all these numbers that are showing up. And right above it, you say that the diesel-fired emergency generators, so when you fire up an emergency generator, and it's a diesel engine, the major components of diesel combustion are nitrogen oxides, particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds, reactive organic gases, and trace toxins. So that was my question. Why weren't these filled in on the FEAF? so
And,
that we can.
I'll go ahead and follow up on a response back to you. I'm just looking at the consultant's response on this, Mr. Mendel, and I'm personally not exactly sure about the concern. The DEC had no more issues regarding the emissions. We'll make sure we can fill out that data, so you do have that tangible data
Well, in order
documented.
to do a proper sequel, we must have a complete FEAF. So, okay. Thank you. Okay. In regards to the diesel emissions, at the 3/25/26 meeting, I had asked if scrubbers or air filters similar to those used on tractor trailers were considered. Somebody replied that they would get back to the board with an answer. Will any of these or similar filters be used to reduce emissions from the diesel emergency backup generators?
Yeah, I don't have the technical response for you. It's consistent from what we did and submitted in the first phase. It's exact same generator submittal, Tier 2 compliant, Cummings generator, 3 megawatt. I'd have to have the technical submittal here for you.
Well, I'm looking at the current one, and that's what I'm looking for the answers for.
Understood.
It's the current one. That was the one that's dated 6/29/26, which is the revised FEAF, which is different from prior ones. That was the one that's been revised in 2026, and that's the one we've been using. So that's where I'm asking those questions from. And I asked it at the last meeting, and we haven't had a response on that. Let me just go further on so I don't hold up everybody. Okay. We talk about the, and it's in the comments from Kimley Horn's response to AKRF's comments back and forth, but in the 7-2 report from AKRF in response to the other comments made. On page 17, number 33 refers to Kimley Horn's comment on 310 that the anticipated operation of emergency generators would be less than 148 hours per year per each unit. So you confirmed it here that 148 hours is the correct number, and it's not 91.5, which was mentioned in the environmental assessment supplement part 3. So that's the correct number, 148? Because in the environmental assessment supplement part 3, prepared by Kimley Horn, revised 4/15/26, page 42 states plan generator maintenance for generators in phase 1 would be 91.5 hours. I assumed that it would be the same in part 2, but in fact the correct answer then would be 148 hours. Is that?
Yeah, and if you look at the document, Mr. Mendel, it's less than 148 hours per the
Okay,
code.
but you're okay, less than. What's the less than?
Less than is going to be consistent with what was submitted on the phase 1, so it's 91.7.
91.5.
91.5, yeah, it's consistent through the site.
Okay. So if we're using 91.5 hours as our gauge then, so each generator would be tested or used for maintenance running about 7.63 hours a month, 91.5 hours per year, and the total for the 23, 23, I had 24, would be over 20, would be about 2,100 hours per year. Is there any way to reduce the number of hours resulting in a decrease in emissions, or that's the bare minimum?
I think that leaves us with consistent cushion. If at times you're running a generator burn-in with a load bank and there's a failure, low fuel, a shortage in a DC cable, load bank cable, you start from scratch. They do an 8-hour burn, they're starting over. So I think that's why the less than 146 is there. Our basis is the 91.5, but we'd like that room for buffer in the fact that there is an issue during the burn-in or during the testing. We'd like to be able to restart that test on a monthly configuration there.
Okay, I was looking, and you mentioned it too, I was looking at Kimley Horn's response to AKRF's comments dated 6/17/26, page 5, number 5. It talks about the applicant is willing to provide solution to dark sky compliant fixtures of 3,000 K or less and color temperature for the Phase 2. It's been mentioned in presentations, it's been mentioned in documents, but there's nowhere I see where it's so specifically as maybe as a note on the plans to specifically state that this will be done. So is there a problem or an objection that this can't be made as a condition that it'll be stated as a note on the plans?
No, we're committed to making that fixture selection, and that would be incorporated in the final construction documents or the final site plan approval documents. We have not updated the plans for submission since this time. We've only responded to clarifications and comments. We've not resubmitted any new drawings.
Okay.
It'll be noted on the plan, yes.
Okay, because we're talking about that since I asked that because it's AKRF's 31026, number 5, talks about the lighting and its effect upon people. 25B on page 10 and 11 talk about problems with wildlife with that type of thing. I'd like to come into landscaping now. The letter dated by Kimley Horns, letter dated 6/17/26. The review of the AKRF's review comments, page 6, number 6, states no change in the landscape plan, last revised January 30th to 26th in submission to the planning board for 5/25/26 meeting. Now, I look at the land bank parking exhibit plan, LB1 dated 4/14/26, submitted on that day, on 4/16/26 for the 5/25 meeting, removed all plantings that previously submitted and dated 1/30/26 site plan, which was LA-1.0. And again, I look at it tonight in your presentation, parking, zoning and parking, and here again, I see with the new building where the plantings were supposed to go, and there's plantings that are missing based upon your January 30th landscape plan. I see parking spaces where all of the land bank, where all of the plantings would have gone. Is there a reason that there's no more plantings, or is the landscape plan null and void now, or?
In regards to the land bank plan exhibit, the landscaping plan would also need to be revised relative to that land bank parking if it were ever installed. And the applicant at that time would have to return to the board to show that proposal.
So we don't have a final landscape plan or anything at this time?
There's no landscape plan for the future land bank parking scenario.
The reason I ask is that landscaping, leads to noise level reductions for nearby residential properties, and also it's essential to mitigate any loss of trees and shrubs, whatever, due to clearing of land for building. Now, AKRF's review, and I go back to it because the last reviews back and forth talked about the last 3 memos back and forth between them and AKRF. But on page 16, number 40, 17, on page 17, number 41, 64 on page 21, the review 7/2/26, page 64, refer to time of day and days of the week for operation of testing generators, specifically during daylight hours. However, your noise memo and Kimley Horn's letter of 6/17, number 41 and 64, do not indicate where the commitment can be found, as well as the hours of the day and week. Is there anywhere that's going to be put onto the plans or added to the plans? Because we usually have it as in the building department, number 5, in a previous submission or conditions, asked that Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, and during emergencies only. But I don't see that anywhere specified on the plans.
What is that? Okay, yeah, so the testing schedule that was submitted and consistent with the first phase shows it Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. For the monthly, there's a semi-annual PM, 20 to 30 minutes, one generator time, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Biennial major PM with oil change 1 hour, 1 generator at a time, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Biannual major PM with load bank 4 hours, 1 generator at a time, Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And opacity testing, 4 hours, up to 2 generators at a time in the opacity testing, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m.
Is that your, in the supplemental?
It's submitted, yeah, supplemental submitted.
Okay, part 3.
That's the EAF Part 3?
Is that what we're talking about with that was submitted?
Yeah, where is that in the submittal?
That
It was
be the-
submitted with comment response documentation. It was submitted along with comment response letters.
With the response letters?
Yeah,
I didn't see him with the response letters.
in older letters. I don't know the date. So it was submitted for the record in prior comment response letters.
Okay, but we're looking for it, where is it stated on the plans or whatever? It's letters back and forth. Well, we're looking at either a condition or it's put as a, that's my opinion, it should be on the plans, so.
Yeah, we can do either, or if you'd like it as a supplementation into the documentation, that's not a problem, we can add it to there.
Yeah, if you want a map note, Mr. Mandel, we could put a map note on the site plan, or as part of the resolution as condition for the hours of testing. That could be in the resolution, or we
Okay.
could put it as a note on the plan.
Yeah, because it goes back and forth between Kinley Horn and AKRF. The hours, satisfied hours, okay? All right. Oh, one last question. You refer to part 1 again. In phase 1, you talked about an underground diesel storage tank. Phase 2 have an underground storage tank?
No, it doesn't. Each generator has its own belly tank, double wall, similar to what we installed, actually identical to what we installed under Phase 1.
Okay, and is it going to have the same sort of runoff where it drops into stone over matting and will go to an oil water separator before it goes out?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, no further comments at this.
Can I take a step back to the emissions comment and the
Yeah,
EAF Part
yes.
1? So I'm looking up some documentation here. I have an email from April 8th from Susan Stewart, who's our air consultant. Her response to that question, as I'm going back and forth here, is she was unsure about what information was to be included in EAF Part 1 sections. Those responses are included in the EAF Part 3 section with an attached Word document. In addition to, there's revised calculations in Excel document that was provided with the revised emissions,
Okay,
with
but it's
reduced
not-
generator counts and sizing.
Okay, but when I look at something to make a decision on SECRA, I look at what we have on the full environmental assessment form. And on this form, it's blank. It's not included. It may be somewhere else, but it should also be added to this form for it to be a complete document so that we can make a rational decision either way based upon the information we have.
Okay, I will take that back with our consultant to take the data, high-level transfer over to this form.
Okay.
Can we issue that exhibit or that document as an additional exhibit, which has several cells and shows the emissions data?
Right. Okay.
Okay?
And it is-
I have the data here, but I'll resubmit it into that form.
It's currently included in the EAF Part 3. Yeah.
Okay, but it's got to be in the part 1.
We can revise the Part 1 to reflect that, yes.
Okay. Okay, we're just gonna,
You have it, but it's in the Part 3, but if you want to transfer it to Part 1, yeah, got it.
okay,
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Matt, questions or comments?
Yeah, on the water usage, you'd gone through some different types of facilities that use more water than this proposed data center. Would you mind just repeating those? You mentioned a movie theater.
Oh, yeah, sorry, yeah. I have, hold on one second. And again, our ebook, The Truth About Data Centers,
Right.
will have some reference.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
pass those out. But when you look at closed-loop data.
Okay, hold on just a second.
Not going to be able to hear what anybody's saying if they
I'll
keep
be right
yelling like
back.
that outside, so we're not going to be able to hear.
We're just going to take a break until we can calm it down because we can't hear the applicants can't hear us. So, and we want everything on the record so everybody can hear everything and it's for record. Excuse me. I'm up here and I'm making the decision, sir. So if you have comments, please keep them to yourself. Everybody here, I appreciate you being quiet. We can run a meeting. When we have yelling out there, it may not go back to you there, but it comes over here. We can't hear them without us yelling, and we want to be able to talk back and forth and want everybody else to hear it too. So thank you.
I have to apologize. I live in this town. I'm very concerned. And I know all you people are concerned. We all have an expression, something we want to say, which is fine. We're all trying to be civil and have a meeting and discuss this and be rational about this. And I apologize for them outside. All right, Matt, do you have anything?
Mr. Miller, to answer your question, I had 7 tangible data points there. Point number 1 is a closed-loop data center. Got me? All right. Data point number 1, closed-loop data center on average is 600,000 gallons of consumption per year. Data point number 2 is an average of 5 households is 730,000 gallons of consumption per year. Movie theater is data point number 3 with 935,000 gallons per year. Peanut farm is just over 2.8 million gallons of water per year. Golf course is on average 5.4 million gallons of water per year. A vineyard on average is 5.6 million gallons of water per year, and a cornfield on average of 5.8 million gallons of water per year.
So this proposed data center would use less water than 5 households?
That is correct, on average, yes, on an average statistic. And again, if you look at the ebook that we published, if you look at some of the statistics there, we show a data point taken from 2023 that shows that the total consumption of all the data centers domestically was less than 1% of the annual domestic water consumption.
Okay, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Matt, question, comments?
All right, just a couple. Has the applicant completed any data center projects that have been up and running for 5+ years?
Multiple.
Say that?
Multiple.
Multiple?
Multiple, yeah.
Like where and when?
Just
a couple examples.
I've got Dallas, Texas, Kansas City, Los Angeles. I'm in 25 markets here, Piscataway, New Jersey.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have any, like, 5+ years post installation studies been completed in regards to, air pollution, water use, ratepayer, what we're going to pay for our rates for electricity? Has anything been completed like that by, I don't know, the company or anyone that you're aware of?
Has it been what? I'm sorry.
Has any studies been completed on the impacts, like 5+ years later? So this is like a new technology, has anything been done like 5+ years post-installation?
We've done post-sound studies. There's been, electrical use to verify that the numbers are consistent with what we've been proposing. As far as anything that we brought out formally, not that I'm aware of at this time. I'd have to ask our sustainability team, but nothing formal that I'm aware of, sir.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, that's just overall for me, that's just a little bit of a concern with the technology expanding like it is and like us not knowing. I think phase 1 just kind of went live recently. So we don't even know in our own town what the impact of phase 1 is, but we're getting ready to do phase 2. That just overarching like concerns me.
And I think there's... valid concern, or valid point, I should say. I will tell you, if you look at phase 1, it's a DSC pump refrigerant. There's even less water. There's no water used in that type of technological cooling. Data centers are evolving. You're seeing throughout the country massive AI giga campuses being built, And then you see enterprise-type co-location campuses that are working through work streams like Netflix or Facebook, or you're trading, or, you know, we're looking at a medical cancer operator that's looking into LGA
Yeah.
4. If you look at the statistics and compare them versus an enterprise colo versus maybe one of these larger gigawatt AI-type centers, they're completely different metrics.
Sure.
But if you look consistently in what we're running in our portfolio, I think the numbers will prove themselves. I don't know where we're going with the question, but I totally understand your point.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of one of those things where you can put statistics together about the, you know, positive impact or negative impact, but you don't know until you see it, kind of thing. That's my point. So I appreciate it.
Understood.
All right, thank you. Bruce, questions or comments?
Yeah, so the new substation, that's going to be permanently eliminated? You're not going to be back in like a year from now?
There's no
to put
need
in
for
the
it.
other substation?
We ran a study. We continue to run the study. We paid, I think, another $65,000 just to have the study to see that if this thing went south and we came back 5 years later and wanted to expand the building, what would it take upstream for transmission line upgrades? What would the proportionate share of cost be on our side, et cetera? We've got that documented, but our plan is to expand into this phase 2, utilize the 3 circuits that are there in the existing ONR substation, and it caps out the site, and that's the max that site would be able to utilize.
And as far as the construction, how long would the construction take? If this
Yeah, we're
does get
looking
approved, you need to build it
13
out. What are we talking about?
13 months with commissioning and testing of it.
And the last one took how long? That was
I'd have to pull it up right now, I can tell you. Where's that fee? 16 months in the first phase, yeah.
Phase 1, 16 months.
Yeah, it was similar in size, but I think a lot heavier civil and site work. Maybe add another 2 months on top of that with a different permit for the demolition of the existing Verizon building.
okay. No, that's it for now.
Okay, thank you very much. I want to turn it over to AKRF now for their report, please. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've reviewed the most recent submission. We submitted a new memo. We were able to sign off on a couple more of the sections of impact analysis, but there are still some concerns that we have, specifically related to energy use, air quality, and noise. I recommend going through the EAF Part 2 this evening to update it based on the most recent submission. So starting on page 1, impact on land. This one is checked yes. And then E and F would still be checked moderate to large. Number 2, we recommend no. Number 3 would still be checked yes, but since the wetlands are no longer regulated, all of the boxes can now be checked small. Number 4, impact on groundwater is still no. Number 5, impact on flooding is still no. Number 6, impact on air and climate is checked yes. We recommend A still be moderate to large, as that's information is still outstanding. B can be checked small. C, small. D, moderate to large. E, small. F, moderate to large. G, small. H, small. Number 7, impact on plants and animals should be checked yes. A and B can be checked small. C can be checked moderate to large. This is in relation to the cited bald eagle nest. D can be checked small. E through I can be checked small. 8, agricultural resources is still no. 9, impact on aesthetic resources is checked yes, but we recommend A through F be checked small. 10, impact on historic and archaeological resources is checked yes, but we recommend that all of the boxes in this section be checked small. 11 is still checked no. 12 is checked no. 13 is checked yes, but we recommend that A through F all be checked small. 14, impact on energy, we recommend be checked yes, and then A through D be checked moderate to large. 15, impact on noise, odor, and light, checked yes. A, moderate to large. B and C, small. D, small. And E, moderate to large. 16, impact on human health, no. 17, consistency with community plans can be checked yes. A and B, small. C and D, moderate to large. E through G, small. 18, consistency with community character, no. And then there's a new category. The DEC recently adopted changes to the seeker regulations, so this is a new category, impact on disadvantaged communities, 19. This would be checked no. The site is not within a designated disadvantaged community. 20 is future physical climate risks. This one we recommend being checked yes. A through D and all of the items within D can be checked small. We did identify an E, which is the high use of energy from power sources that burn fossil fuels. That can be checked moderate to large. Are there any questions from the board on any of these recommendations?
Yeah.
Any of the
Okay,
board members have any questions?
Yeah, on number 11, where you say impact to open space and recreation. I mean, it's clearly impacted the Little League over there, so, which is baseball and whatever. So, I mean, I know it's not entirely their fault, because they had to deal with Verizon to use the parking. That parking no longer exists, but, I mean, they got 7 fields over there. They play like 3 games at a time now, because they don't have enough parking. So, it's been a big impact on the Provo Little League, so. And then, just on the impact to energy, their total yearly usage is equivalent to, it says 34,000 homes, or all the homes more than all the homes in Orangetown put together. That's a lot of energy, so.
But it is checked off.
Yeah, but still, I'm just.
Okay, so for the open space and recreation, I think we can move that over to yes, but I would still recommend that everything be checked small. And the reason for that is this category is typically when it's a publicly owned land or facility that's being lost. In this case, they were allowing the use of private property for parking.
Just with all due respect, that should be no, because if you're utilizing private property for the Little League, that shouldn't impact us. I mean, it's completely different. That should be a no. You know, we don't, quite frankly, the Little League was using private property before, so how is that even changing the scenario with respect to this property? That should not be a yes. But again, it was private property that was utilized by the Little League. So I understand the issue, but again, that's not an impact with respect to this project as to this property. So has nothing to do with this project.
So the way the question is worded is the proposed action may result in a loss of recreational opportunities or reduction in open space resource as designated in any adopted municipal open space plan. So the recreational opportunity of the Little League field is still available. It's the potential loss of the privately owned parking. You could check yes, but then I would say all of the boxes within that category should be no or small, because we are talking about private land.
Yeah, I'm sorry to just jump in, but wasn't this already addressed during Phase 1 as part of the same discussion, though?
Leave it as no? Okay.
And just one thing on the bald eagles, has AKRF seen the bald eagle's nest?
We've seen photographs of the nest. We did not.
Does anybody have the photographs that can be in the record that we can see?
Yeah, they were taken today, so they haven't had time to enter them yet, but we will.
Yeah, yes. Okay. Okay. Okay, any further questions or comments on the part 2?
Anyone else on the board have any questions or comments? No.
Okay. So next, we have a draft of a part 3 available for the board members. What it does is it walks through each of these impact areas in a narrative, and I will read it out loud for the board. And when we get to the end of this, the board, it does set it up as being potentially a positive declaration. When we get to the end, the board may vote yay or nay. If you vote yay, then it would head towards a environmental impact statement being required. If you vote no, then we would ask that the applicant prepare the additional materials so that the board could consider a negative declaration at a later date. So I will read what we've identified within this narrative. Land impacts. The proposed action would increase the intensity of land use at the project site. Approximately 0.1 acres of wetlands and 1 acre of landscaping and lawn and 2.1 acres of forest would be removed. The proposed action would also involve long periods of construction and is seeking a waiver to disturb more than 5 acres of land at a time. Impact on geological features. The project site does not contain any unique or unusual landforms such as cliffs, dunes, minerals, fossils, caves. Therefore, the proposed action would not result in a modification or destruction of or inhibit access to any unique or unusual landforms, and no significant adverse impacts to geological features are anticipated. Impacts on surface water. The project site contains unregulated wetlands and is adjacent to Lake Tapan. The proposed project involves the filling of unregulated wetlands. Impact on groundwater. The proposed action is not anticipated to result in direct impacts to wells, groundwater, or aquifers. Flooding impacts. The project site is not within a designated floodway or floodplain. Therefore, the proposed action would not result in a significant adverse flooding impacts. Further, the proposed action would include stormwater management improvements designed based on the DEC stormwater management guidelines that would satisfy the runoff reduction, water quality, and water quantity requirements. Impacts on air. The proposed action includes a state-regulated air emission source. Phase 1 has 13 generators, and Phase 2 would add an additional 8 generators to the project site. Impact on plants and animals. The project site was substantially disturbed as part of a Phase 1, as well as past development. However, the unregulated wetlands would be directly impacted by the proposed action. There are no critical habitats, fish hatcheries, or national wildlife refuge lands on the site. The project site has historically been adjacent to an eagle's nest, which may have been recently reestablished. Per the U.S. Fish and Wildlife official species list, the project site is within the range of the protected bald eagle, federally endangered northern long-eared bat, federally proposed endangered tricolored bat, and federally proposed endangered monarch butterfly. Impact on agricultural resources. The project site does not contain any agricultural resources. Therefore, the proposed action would not result in significant adverse impacts to agricultural resources. Aesthetic resource impacts. The proposed action is not anticipated to diminish public enjoyment or appreciation of surrounding aesthetic resources. The proposed action includes vegetative buffers to minimize off-site views. Impact on historical and archaeological resources. The project site is located in or adjacent to a site designated as archaeologically sensitive. The New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation was consulted during Phase 1 and the entire property was evaluated for potential impacts to archaeological resources. As part of that review, OPRHP issued a letter of no effect. As such, significant adverse impacts to historic and archaeological resources are not anticipated. Impact on open space and recreation. The project site does not contain, and the proposed action would not affect, any public recreational facilities or open space resources. Therefore, the proposed action is not anticipated to result in any significant adverse impacts to open space or recreational resources. Critical environmental areas. According to the DEC info locator, there are no critical environmental areas on the project site or in the surrounding area. Therefore, the proposed action will not impact any designated CEA. Impact on transportation. The proposed action is not a significant traffic generator as it has very few employees. As such, the proposed action is not anticipated to result in significant adverse traffic impacts. Impact on energy. The proposed action would have an annual electricity demand of 236,520 megawatt hours per year and 118,260 megawatt hours per year in phase 2. Sorry, I should say in phase 1 was the first one, for a total demand of 354,780 megawatt hours per year. This significant use of electricity is equivalent to approximately 34,000 homes, or more than all of the homes in Orangetown. Noise, odor, and light impacts. Oh, sorry. It has the electricity is equivalent to approximately 34,000 homes, or more than all of the homes in Orangetown. Noise, odor, and light impacts. Construction-related noise and dust would occur during construction on the project site. The proposed action would increase lighting on the project site, which includes non-dark sky compliant sources. The proposed action would increase noise generation on the project site, and in some locations that increase would exceed 6 dBA. The modeling of summer conditions indicates total levels that wouldn't generally be considered loud and are below the 65 dBA threshold considered acceptable for residential use per DEC guidance. However, the increments over the existing nighttime conditions, which are quiet, are likely to be readily noticeable and would be considered could be considered intrusive and may require a closer analysis of impact potential per DEC guidance. For residents who would be sleeping with windows or doors closed and air conditioners running during the summer nighttime hours, the project noise would likely not be noticeable. For residents who have windows open at night to preference or ventilation needs, such as no air conditioning, or who would use outdoor areas of their property at night and expect quiet conditions, the predicted noise levels are likely to be noticeable and potentially intrusive. It is also worth noting in considering noise effects from the project that residents can expect the project noise to be constant each day and night as compared to a more intermittent noise source like a typical HVAC equipment or vehicular traffic. Impact on human health. The proposed action will not have an impact on human health from exposure to new or existing sources of contaminants. Therefore, the proposed action is not anticipated to result in significant adverse impacts to human health. And just for the board's awareness, this section is specifically refers to in the DEC guidance to solid waste generation, and it's not related to things like air quality. So that's why these are no. Consistency with community plans. The proposed action is inconsistent with local land use plans and zoning regulations and requires area variance. The proposed action is also inconsistent with county plans, county land use plans. Consistency with community character. The proposed action is consistent with the character of the adjacent industrial park and would not adversely affect community resources. Impact on disadvantaged communities. The proposed action is not located within a disadvantaged community identified on the DEC Disadvantaged Communities Assessment Tool. However, the proposed action would increase air emissions and would consume a significant amount of energy from power sources that burned fossil fuels, which could have an indirect or off-site impacts to DACs. Future physical climate risk. The proposed action would increase greenhouse gas emissions and would consume a significant amount of energy from power sources that burn fossil fuels. And that is the end of the summary. So at this time, At this time, the board can rely on this summary as well as the items that were identified as moderate to large in the EAF Part 2 to consider issuing a positive declaration.
Okay, do I have one of the board members make a motion, please?
Make a motion to vote on yes or no on the positive declaration.
Okay, I'll pull the board. Andy, yes or no on a pause deck? Andy, yes or no on positive deck?
Yes, pause.
Okay, do I have a second on the motion?
I'll second it.
Okay. Andy, yes or no on the positive deck?
Positive deck, yes.
So
Lisa,
let's
yes
have
or
a
no
motion
on a
first.
positive deck?
Mr. Chairman, let's have someone make the motion.
Oh, they did.
Mr. Mandel made the motion.
Did we have a second?
Andy seconded.
Yeah, we did. Andy did. Okay. Lisa, yes or no on a positive deck?
Yes.
Thank you. Andy, shut your mic off, and Lisa, please. Mike, yes or no on a positive deck?
Yes on a positive deck.
Okay, Matt, yes or no on a positive deck?
Yes.
Okay. Matt, yes or no on a positive deck?
Yes.
Bruce, yes or no on a positive deck?
Yes.
Myself, I say yes. Okay?
Okay, so since you've issued a positive deck, the next step in the process is to do scoping, to conduct scoping, which will identify all of the items that need to be analyzed in the environmental impact statement. Typically, the applicant team would prepare the first draft of the scoping document. Once that's received, a scoping meeting would be scheduled, and at that point in time, the members of the public would be welcome to come and speak on what items they want to see analyzed in the EIS. It is important to note that in the EAF Part 2 and in the summary that was included in the Part 3, there are several impact areas that have already been thoroughly analyzed and resolved, so that I would expect that a scoping document for this environmental impact statement would be very focused on just those remaining impact areas. In terms of...
Can you state what those are? You said the three remaining?
So we will provide a copy of this, and you can see, based on what I read out loud, which ones we fully resolved. There are several in what I read that said that there would be no significant adverse impacts. And then the ones that do not say that, those are the ones that you would need to cover in your scoping document.
No, understood, but you said there were three remaining, so I just wanted to know if you knew what those three were. That's all for the record.
Specifically, the main concerns are noise, air quality, and energy consumption, but there were also some concerns related to land use and consistency with public policy. Climate change. And you should address off-site impacts to disadvantaged communities.
If it doesn't apply, though, how do we do that? Because you said it didn't apply.
You're not located within a disadvantaged community. You are not located within a disadvantaged community, but there are other disadvantaged communities within the town of Orangetown. Your project site's not within one, so its potential off-site would be the concern. So the way it's worded is, the proposed action is not located within a disadvantaged community identified in the DEC Disadvantaged Community Assessment Tool. However, the proposed action would increase air emissions and would consume a significant amount of energy from power sources that burn fossil fuels, which could have indirect or off-site impacts to DACs.
Okay. Let me kind of explain what has happened is that the board, at this point, has voted on a positive declaration. What that means is that there's going to be a lot more work that both the applicant and the town will have to do to see if this is a viable project or not. Okay. At this point, I'm going to open it up to the public comments. Now, let me just say something. One of the things that AKRF said is that they're going to have a public scoping program. I don't know when that's going to be. It will be advertised, I believe. And at that point, again, you're going to be asked to address it, your concerns or anything else. I want to open up to the public here now, but let me just say something. You're going to be allowed for 3 minutes. If we get 100 people at 3 minutes, that's 300 minutes, so you can see the time frame. If somebody in front of you has said exactly the same thing that you are, please, you step up, you state your name and address, and say, I have the same concerns as the person in front of me. If you have something new, please, add it. But let's not be repetitious, where everybody says, I don't like it because of too much power. And the next person, I don't like it because of too much power. We're just going to waste a lot of time for no reason. Again, we're going to open it up to the public. And again, you're going to have your 3 minutes. And again, if somebody says, don't be repetitious is what I'm trying to say, okay? At that point, I want to ask the board to, a motion to open it up to the public session.
Motion to open public session.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Okay. We have a list that people have filled out. We're going to go by the order of the list, so when your name is called, please step forward to the microphone, and, you have your 3 minutes.
And if you decide you don't want to talk, to say you don't want to talk. First one is Stephen Jackson.
That mic's not on. And get his address, and his address, too.
Green, okay. My name's Steve Jackson. I'm from Northvale, New Jersey. Before
Sir, what's your address, though? I need your address.
407 Grace Avenue, Northvale, New Jersey. Before I read what I've written down, I do want to make an important point that this new proposal is half the area of Phase 1. It's twice the power. That means it's 4 times the power per square foot. 4 times the power per square foot means more power, more noise, more diesel generators, et cetera. That's the technology that we're doing now is different than 3 years ago. Anyway, there's a number of issues that are being
Pull that mic a little closer to your mouth, or just
there are a number of issues like water. There are a number of issues like water, noise, and air pollution that are under discussion, but the number one object, I think, freezing this project is the reality that the data center power requirements are a world away from what was approved in 2014 for the first Bloomberg data center. Let's put things in perspective. In 2014, when the Bloomberg data center was approved, 35% of the cell phones in the US were still flip phones. The primary cell service was 3G. Data centers did not even have the modern AI chips. Those were not available until 2016. And the average data centers were about 3 to 5 megawatts in power. I did some research and found out that the Orangetown Planning Board gave the developer Russo in 2011 the approval to do something there, and they did not mention power usage at all. The utility plan applied to water and sewage connections, but not to electrical power. I searched the entire document and found 0 occurrences of the word power, data, center, and megawatts. Yet DataBank continues to press on. In the words of Leo Sciaretta, counsel for DataBank, Orangetown has already permitted other data centers, so based on past interpretations, that ship has sailed. My reply to Mr. Sciaretta and DataBank is that the ship that sailed in 2014 is more like my father's small fishing boat. The 40 megawatt data plan that they're looking for now is more like Jeff Bezos' $500 million yacht. They have nothing to do with each other. The planning board must forego approving this application for at least 12 months to accomplish 2 tasks. 1, develop a zoning model that does not use this 2009 building inspector precedent. They need to create an entirely new category for the data centers of 2026 and the future. I want AI data centers, but this board cannot wave a magic power wand and let this 40 megawatt data center move forward as is. Number 2, develop a methodology to account for the effect of massive power needs on the prices of electricity to your constituents. I'm aware that Orangetown Planning Board doesn't set electricity prices, but ignoring the effect of a project of this scope with the same power as 34,000 homes is ignoring your responsibility to your constituents. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, can I ask one more favor? If you have spoken, please step out of the room, because we only allow so many people in the room at a time, so that the next person who wishes to speak can come in. So, sir, if you had spoken, please go out so somebody else can come in, okay? Thank you very much. Okay, the next person, please.
Betsy Longendorfer. Did I get the name right? Okay, thank you.
Who's on deck so we can line up? So it'll go faster. Yeah. 3, 4, and 5.
Betsy, just.
Thank
give me
you for this
your ad-
opportunity.
Betsy, just your address.
I'm Betsy Longendorfer from 407 Grace Avenue in Northvale. I'm a retired electrical engineer. I write about the power grid on several of my Substack newsletters. I'm not against data centers, but I am against excessive burdens being placed on neighbors. I attended a recent meeting where you considered whether 5 to 10 people leaving a local bookstore at 7 p.m. would create enough of a disturbance to change the character of your town. And that's great that you worry about that. However, this data center will change your community by orders of magnitude more than the bookstore. The power usage of data centers is so large and so different now than the past that planning boards don't even really have questions about the costs. And that really is a new issue that you need to address. The cost of power is determined by supply and demand, so the more demand, the higher the price. We were unable to get a definite power usage number until DataBank's revised filing on June 29th. The total of 40 megawatts for the completed and new data centers represents about 34,000 homes, as was said. What's the extra rate that ORU will charge us? And I still have questions about why the air permit asks for 94 megawatts of power backup instead of the 40 megawatts in the filing. Which is it? Perhaps it's the chiller systems and the total load is being understated? In any case, that's a major difference which the board should delve into and nail down. Besides buying power, the utility must spend money on infrastructure such as the substation and perhaps transmission line upgrades, as was said here. What's the cost? Remember, they have received tax credits, which means that residents must pay these costs. And apparently we're already paying for the substation, judging by an ORU press release describing a new $24 million investment on Corporate Drive and the simultaneous removal of a substation from this application. Is that coincidence? Note that New Jersey has just passed a major new law requiring data centers to pay these costs, and it also forbade tax credits. What will happen when there's strain on the power grid, especially on hot summer days? Will DataBank be told to go to backup power so that residents avoid blackouts? Will the number of brownouts increase? How long will these, well, we did find out about how long the diesel generators would run, and AKRF raised these questions too. Note that the Rockland County Planning Board has twice recommended that DataBank provide on-site renewable power generation or battery storage, both to combat pollution and to offset power grid cost and reliability impact, but DataBank has not committed to either. What we are asking of data centers is only fair. Don't ask your neighbors to pay for your infrastructure. Don't make them suffer blackouts. Don't pollute their water or air or generate loud noise. Don't ask them to pay more taxes because you got rebates. And what we ask of the Orangetown Board is to deny this application and others until you have guidance from statewide policies. You are imposing your judgment on many more people beyond your own town, and local planning boards were not ethically meant to deal with such far-reaching consequences. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, please.
Hello, board and representatives.
I
My
just
name
need
is
your
Tracy.
address.
I
What's your
live.
address, Tracy?
My name is Tracy Finan. I live at 18 Hawk Street in Pearl River, New York. I'm less than a mile and a half from the proposed DataBank location. I am pro-technology. I hold a computer science degree. I'm a former systems engineer for IBM. A societal good should not be approved by shifting costs, noise, risk, or loss of trust onto neighbors. For electricity and water prices, equity and transparency are key. A fundamental principle of utility rate making is cost causation. Costs belong with the cost causer, not with the neighbors or the ratepayers who may see the bill later. You have an opportunity to be heroes for our community. For DataBank 2 to be approved, the applicant should agree to or be required to meet binding conditions, including public disclosure of electric load, peak demand, backup power, grid upgrades, water use, generation operation, and who pays, written cost causation protections so that project-related utility and infrastructure costs are not shifted to residents, small businesses, or ordinary taxpayers, best-in-class noise mitigation, low-noise equipment, enclosed mechanical systems, acoustic barriers where needed, and enforceable nighttime light measures, nighttime limit measured by homes nearby, independent third-party testing before operation, commissioning periodically afterward with results posted publicly, strict generator testing limits, hours, duration, frequency, emission controls, and advance notice, strong visual screening, dark sky lighting, landscaping, etc., stormwater spill-off, fire, battery, and hazardous material protections reviewed by independent experts and local first responders, community mitigation fund for impacted neighborhoods, emergency services, environmental monitoring, and local infrastructure, predetermined consequences for violations of approval terms, similar to liquidated damages, automatic penalties, cure deadlines, stop work or shutdown authority, and a performance bond or escrow, no tax break, subsidy, or land use approvals unless these protections are enforceable, transparent, and funded upfront. I respectfully recommend that the Orangetown adopt a data center master plan based on the public town materials reviewed. I do not find an adopted standalone data center master plan. Please do the right thing on DataBank 2. We require full transparency, enforceable best-in-class protections, and a data center master plan before approving more projects of this scale. I respectfully ask the planning board and the town to consider how today's decision will shape the Orangetown we live in for the next generation, and how action or inaction will be judged. Thank you.
Just for everybody's information, there are no more votes tonight. The vote was already taken for a positive declaration. Next person up is Anthony McIntosh.
Hello, everyone. My name is Anthony McIntosh. I live at 39 Lincoln Street, Sloatsburg, New York.
I'm sorry, 39 what street?
Lincoln.
Thank you.
It has already been found at the national level that Fayetteville, Georgia, and Loudoun County, Virginia have reported a resource depletion as a result of the data centers there. So to say that there isn't going to be one or that there isn't data on it is dishonest. The presentation that I just witnessed used largely comparative language, which is itself a form of deception in the same sense that if, for whatever reason, they were attempting to set off the Tsar Bomba and they then reduced it to the Little Boy, which was dropped on Japan, it would still completely destroy the community. The tax paid, per the presentation, is consistent with local property tax for just owning property. They're not selling a product to the local town, and therefore there cannot be tax on the transaction as there would be with the purchase of food or groceries. The admission that they only activate all generators in the event of a blackout is itself an admission that the power usage already mentioned will come from the grid and not from their own generators for the majority of the time. And according to the EPA, American houses use 300 to 400 gallons a day. If we generously assume that it's 400 instead of 300, the 6,000 gallons a day previously mentioned in the meeting is a 15 times rate of water usage, not a 5 times. The Eagle Nest was time dependent. The sound measurement mentioned, I don't know if here, but other places, was time dependent. The presentation, while not explicitly lying, has a pattern of technical truths and stretching the truth. I do believe that it is the duty of any governing body to treat their constituents as parts of a commonwealth, not a business. Thank you for your time.
Next one up is, I'm
gonna try to, I can't read it. Eileen Semino?
Correct.
He's so much better than Mr. Warren. He's so much better.
Good evening. My name's Eileen Cincimino. I live at 4 Roman Court in West Nyack, New York, town of Clarkstown. I've lived in Rockland County, however, since 1963. I've been a nurse at Rockland Psychiatric Center for 25 years. I am totally invested in our county. And my 2 grandsons live in the heart of Orangeburg, so, you know, I'll do anything for them. I trust, in fact, I know that each and every member of our board knows all of our concerns already. I mean, you know the facts of how these centers affect the communities where they are. We have a lot of that data. Nobody really wants them, and guess what? Neither do we. Nobody in the United States really wants them. So, having said that, there is a word I haven't heard tonight, except I am hard of hearing, so excuse me if I'm not accurate, and that's risk. Risk of pollution, risk of air quality, risk of all the things that we know are very, very possible, if not probable, when data centers are involved. And I don't know why we don't have a risk assessment. I haven't heard an environmental impact statement by any authority. If I'm wrong, again, I have my hearing aids on, but as many of you know, they don't work that great 100% of the time. Environmental Protection Agency, environmental impact statement. Wetlands are basically, I think, under the, we hate to say it, the core of the Army, the Corps of Army Engineers. Wetlands, you say they're a little bit. Doesn't matter. Wetlands are wetlands. They're not to be disturbed. They're a huge part. The eagle, which, thank you. The eagle, which you guys brought up, has been in a nest when I worked at Rockland for over 15 years. Now, they do stay on the same lakes, and they can't change nests, like one on Lake DeForest when the hurricane came and smashed his nest. He built another nest next door. The eagles are there. They're there. You might say their nest is not right by the data center. Okay. That's their home. That's where they fish. That's where they live. And they stay there generation from generation to generation. One goes to this end, the other one stays at it's a great source of fish so far, not too polluted. So I am asking you, without more information, the young lady I thank greatly gave us more information in that time than we've heard.
Ma'am, that's it.
Did it go off?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, well,
Thank
that's
you.
my hearing aids. Please, check it out with your heart.
Charles Branch. No miss.
Thank you, Chair. My name is Charles Branch. My address is 46 Waldron Avenue in Central Nyack, New York. I am a third-generation American, and I am not only the product of the American dream, but I am a living example. I am 16, and at my age, I organize, take part in protests, and research ongoing issues not only in Rockland County and by extension America, but also worldwide. I take legal studies classes through Rockland Community College to take part in a future in the legal field and on a wider scope, American politics. I'm likely one of the youngest people in this room, and I am America's future. And this project is something that will harm the people now and people in the future. I am opposed to DataBank's Phase 2 application for a data center next to Lake Tapan. Data centers have been known nationwide to take or pollute water, and taking drinking water away from people that need it. In Rockland County, we already struggle with enough issues. We have a homeless population and several issues with poverty. We have too many civil rights issues to list in the East Ramapo Central School District, and the last thing we need is power grid issues in Orangeburg and the loss of drinking water. My concern is not only for the citizens of Orangeburg, but also for citizens across Rockland County. Our tax dollars should go towards public services and not subsidies for data centers. To protect my future and my neighbors from noise pollution, increased utility bills, and grid strain, I urge you to require a full environmental impact statement from DataBank and reject the application. Thank you for my time.
Peggy Kurtz.
I'll be brief. My name is Peggy Kurtz, and I live at 220 Frost Drive in Nyack, New York, in Upper Nyack, actually. I'm going to talk just about the one issue that I haven't heard mentioned at all, and that is the potential for harm to Lake Tapan. Orangetown recently completed with state funding a study of source water protection for the town, identifying areas that were particularly vulnerable and ways of protecting them. And so it's very ironic for the planning board to be considering this project. With more extreme weather and more violent storms and the potential for leaks, it just defies common sense to site backup fuel tanks on a drinking water reservoir for tens of thousands of households. I don't know if it's hundreds of thousands. And that's in addition to the potential for fires involving computer and battery storage equipment, and how all of this could potentially impact a drinking water reservoir. That's it. I don't want to repeat what others have said. Thank you.
Jocelyn D. Crescenzo. Okay.
So I'm Jocelyn DiCrescenzo. I live at 116 Sierra Vista Lane in Valley Cottage, New York. I have two things I'm going to do. I'm just going to very briefly speak for myself and say that I applaud everyone on the board who voted for a positive deck. I applaud everyone who has spoken before I have come up here. They're so eloquent and so learned and so deep into the actual information that's needed to make a really proper decision on this. So I'm just totally grateful to everyone in this room for their input and their expertise. And now I would like to read some words from Chief Perry of the Ramapo Muncie Lenape. He's not able to be here tonight, but he asked me to read this for him. We are grateful to Mother Earth, who gives us life, feeds us, and supports us in all ways as we grow and learn. Mother Earth is our greatest strength. We acknowledge the swimmers, the flyers, the crawlers, the four-legged, and the two-legged. We are all one. We act with respect, reverence, and reciprocity. We have a responsibility to think of those generations yet to come and to leave them a world that is capable of providing an abundant life, clean air to breathe, clean land, and clean water. You know, water is sacred. It is absolutely sacred. We acknowledge the first peoples who have lived, thrived, and stewarded on these lands for thousands of years. They remind us of that which is sacred. Thank you so much. And I will use my voice at the next public hearing in full, so thank you so much.
Jacqueline Dressler? No, she's here.
Hi there, Jackie Drexler from Valley Cottage. I
I do thank the board for this meeting tonight. I wanted to say a couple of things. One is that, just a reminder that DataBank CoreWeave agreed to land bank the land for a possible future business that would actually bring in workers. And I have some really big concerns about the water. So I wonder if the lake actually got contaminated by diesel fuel, what is Veolia's responsibility for treating the lake? I wonder if there might be a bit of a conflict of interest here with Mr. Shretta also being a lawyer for Veolia. I'd like to know what is Veolia's plan to decontaminate the water that is supposed to serve Rockland County and continue into New Jersey as a drinking water source if it gets contaminated. Because it's all diesel. This is all diesel, and if there are fires, it's all sorts of equipment to put out fires that can be very contaminating. So we know that it's supposed to go into sewer drains and then into the sewer systems, but ultimately this water leads to go into streams and our river. So I'm also very much concerned about the noise pollution. They're saying there's not noise pollution. We all know that living next to generators is noise, and it can so get into your body that it can disrupt your heartbeat. So there's a lot of pollution here. I wanted to in particularly thank Mr. Andy Andrews, who was talking about the Eagle's Nest. I happen to know that years ago, I don't know if it was when Veolia had taken over, or maybe it was still United Water, but United Water and Orange and Rockland got caught red-handed cutting down trees during eagle season with an eagle right there. And this is a major, major concern. So I just want to also say that the energy burden on ratepayers is happening. It's already happening. And these are the energy burden is because of private for-profit companies that are making millions, billions, maybe trillions of dollars altogether. We need to be protecting our resources, and the most important resource is our water. So I just feel that there's some issues here that really need to be looked at. The air quality permits. We know that the particulate matter and all of the noxious fumes from the diesel generators can really be killers. I personally am allergic to gasoline. I can't be anywhere near it, and I really
Thank you, ma'am.
feel very badly for the people who live next to it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next one, it looks like Chris Kovensky, Old Tapan. Okay, that's, okay. Next up is, no, you have to go in order, sorry. Steve Valachikis? Okay.
Yes, my name is Steve. It's on. So the one thing I want to really, really impress upon everyone in the room is language. It's how we use terms. Data center. I was here last meeting, and there was talk about, oh, the Chase data center. That was great. We really, we supported it. It's done great, and now data centers are a problem. And then I come here, and what do I see? There's no data center, it's data bank now. All of a sudden, it's data bank. We have to really impress upon terms. These are AI data centers. Can we say that every time rather than calling it a data center or now a data bank? because it will give us an idea of what the energy use is, the water use is. So I think it's disingenuous. The thousands of GPUs, AI accelerators, and high-speed networking and advanced cooling will need to be replaced, often providing a toxic disposal issue that should inspire local environmental concerns. These very, very fast processors break down. There's a lot of toxic waste that has not been touched upon. I think it should be addressed. All data centers are increasingly being used for military uses. They can be marked as targets for terrorism. We don't need targets for terrorism in our local neighborhoods. Let's keep in mind that when the federal government identifies infrastructure as integral to national security, there can be no local ordinances or town councils that can inhibit the infrastructure's operation. Let me repeat that. If it becomes a national security issue that that data center has to be there for national security, nothing the town can say or do will stop the infrastructure's operation or its increased uses for whatever reason it deems necessary for the security. None. And that should be a big concern. Thank you.
David Rosen.
Good evening. My name is David Rosen. I live at 10 Buckingham Place in Old Tappan, New Jersey, directly adjacent to the data bank property. Before I get into tonight's record, I want to say something very clearly. I'm not against data centers. I'm for putting them in sensible, low-risk, low-impact locations. And I'm for fairness, making sure the companies that profit pay their fair share of incremental costs that these data centers create and do everything possible to minimize the impact on our communities. Based on what's in front of you tonight, DataBank has not met that standard in my judgment. At this board's own experts, AKRF flagged multiple unresolved issues in a letter just days ago. And of course, thank you again for reviewing many of these and for the many great questions that were asked here and ultimately finding the positive declaration, which was certainly appropriate. So let's talk about fairness. DataBank and its key client happens to be a company called CoreWeave, were granted Rockland County's IDA tax exemptions. Some of you may know that granted them up to $58 million tied to phase one. DataBank's own filing estimates in the several hundred-page Kimley-Horn document was put together. Very interesting chart. How much did they pay on real estate taxes? I think they mentioned some numbers here today. It turns out that phase two, the estimate was $171,000 is what they expect the real estate annual taxes to be. So for all that risk, a question about risk, for $171,000 in incremental taxes for phase two. Now, that's a lot of money to you and I, but what is that against? A $58 million already granted tax exemption to their main client and to their mortgage tax exemptions. Combined with phase one, the whole campus projects a little over $2 million a year. Do the math. $58 million in exemptions against roughly $2 million a year in taxes. And by the way, as some of you may know, there was another $50 million request by CoreWeave, what was about to be reviewed by the the IDA. And because of the ruckus, which some of you may have seen, on the JP Morgan $77 million tax exemption grant, all of a sudden the IDA canceled that. Yes, thankfully they did. That money could have otherwise been used for fund schools and services or reduce local taxpayers' tax dollars or increase services to Rockland County and residents. Is that fair to the community? Is that fairness to the county? I don't believe it is.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Okay. My name is Clifford Davis, 44 Church Street, White Plains, New York, 10601. I'm closer. I'm counsel for David Rosen and Chris Kilbiowski. I remind this board that this application is going in the complete wrong direction as to energy. As this board and everybody in this room knows, the New York State Legislature, both houses, Republicans, Democrats, and others, passed legislation. It's not yet signed by Kathy Hochul, but there's a provision in there, this is the moratorium legislation, which would require immediately that as to all energy that is used at these data centers, that they must be from renewable sources. And in fact, by 2040, 90% of it must be from renewable sources, 1/3 of renewable sources by 2030. This applicant has the audacity to come before this board and has confirmed by AKRF that they don't want any renewable resources, that they want to just rely on the electrical grid. That is not right. Second, AKRF confirmed in the summary that was tonight that the applicant engaged in unlawful segmentation. And that is precisely why Phase 1 and Phase 2 have to be considered together. That is precisely how you reach 34,000 homes, why she mentioned that there are both generators. So when this board goes back and we go through the scoping document, it has to be cumulative. And cumulative doesn't just mean Phase 1 and Phase 2. We have to look, and there's no information in the record at all, as to what data centers are now coming down the pike and what data centers exist. And you have to put them all together and see what the impact does. Data bank does not address the impacts of electricity. Nothing, nothing, and nothing but legalese nonsense. That is the elephant in this room, and all we hear are crickets. Nothing about impacts on the community. That O&R without any documentation says it will simply supply the electricity, means very little. What are the impacts to the community? What will the rate hikes be? Will there be blackouts? What about the other data centers in the pipeline competing for the same electricity? Who has priority? And there is no documentation as to outage frequency nor voltage stability. Let me just address setbacks. The applicant, well, number one, the applicant made a very sloppy presentation, and this board should not have been going on for that long. But just give me 1 second, Mr. Chairman. With regarding the R80...
I have to cut you off, sir. It's only fair.
Just one second. Because I started with 20 seconds on, okay? With regarding the R80 district, it requires a 200-foot setback from Veola water from the property line. Mr. Chiaretta said, or it was in the presentation, it was from the lake. Their analysis is incomplete, and they should, and instead of wasting everybody's time with incomplete materials, they should come in with a more satisfactory presentation.
Thank you, sir.
Jane Fuller. Jane Fuller. I think it's Penny Rosen.
All right. Good evening. My name is Penny Rosen. My name is Penny Rosen. I live at 10 Buckingham Place in Old Tappan, right behind the data bank site. I want to say, like Dave, my husband, that we are not here because we hate data centers. We're here because we believe there's a right way and a wrong way to build one. And this project, as proposed, is the wrong way. A right way means the company benefiting from this facility pays its fair share of what it costs the rest of us and actually does what it can to protect this community and this environment. So far, that hasn't happened. You don't have to take my word for it tonight. We have a neighbor who I wanted to give my place to, who has lived with this for 15 years since a previous data center was built. She has the noise of the generators going in her backyard. So it's not just a number on a chart, it's somebody's bedroom window. Many of you in this room get your electricity from Orange and Rockland. I'm sorry to say that there's a high probability that your bill has climbed significantly in the last couple of years. Orange and Rockland recently announced its investment, as we've heard before, $24 million in the substation on Corporate Drive, the one that serves this campus. I think we all know who ends up paying for that, and nobody has told us what happens to our power during peak summer days once this facility is drawing a full load. Will there be brownouts in our neighborhoods? Electricity prices are set at auction based on supply and demand. So when demand goes up like this with no renewable energy offered as an alternative, our prices go up too. And if the grid does fail, this facility has its own massive backup, generators ready to go. Will the rest of us just be sitting in the dark while they keep running? We're asking you, well, I don't have to ask you to decline the application. That's been done, so. Well, it hasn't been declined, but a positive EIS. All right, so thank you for your time.
Kristen, High Avenue.
It's Kirsten, hi.
What's the last name?
Kirsten Meehan, I live on High Avenue in Nyack. Meehan. I would like to give you some numbers. 602, 492, 320, 294. These are numbers of people who died in single-instance structural fires of large public buildings in the United States before building and fire codes were nationally regulated. The number of people who died in factory machinery accidents and improperly ventilated mines before those faced national regulation are uncountable but vast. In the 1940s, widespread use of pesticide DDT, thought at the time to be an unquestioned good, created an environmental disaster with a reach we are still struggling to understand, let alone recover from. The same can be said for generations of children raised with lead pipes contaminating their drinking water. The people who implemented these technologies also thought they were safe for everyone in the short and long term. Time has taught us otherwise. We do not know the long-term effects of this kind of data center. Our country has an ugly history of environmental and human cost to rapid implementations of new technologies. There is a saying I'm sure you're all familiar with: the regulations are written in blood. The regulations for this kind of data center are not written yet, and we don't need to write them in blood here. Do not move forward with something that has even a chance of impacting something as precious as public health and drinking water. That is how the ink becomes blood. Thank you.
Ann Brennan.
Good evening. Is it working? I don't know. Hello? Okay. A little bit like this. Hello? Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Ann Brennan. I live at 559 North Greenbush Road in Blauvelt. And how many times can you say no in 3 minutes? I feel that this data bank outfit made it sound like everything was taken care of. Their concerns, their dangers, but they've taken care of everything. Don't worry, it's going to be fine. That's the impression I get. But I just wanted to share a few things I'd read on the internet about 3 large companies that we all know about. The first was Google. There's an incident at a Google data center, highlights the risks of arc flash. Okay, that was the first. And these are the big companies. Second was X data center fire in Oregon, started inside a power cabinet. A recent hours-long fire, this was July 22nd, 2025, at a data center used by Elon Musk's X, may have begun after an electrical or a mechanical issue in a power system, according to an official fire investigation. And the third one, first responders are being overwhelmed by data center fires, September 28th, 2025. First responders in a small Ohio town have answered 84 emergencies between 2 Amazon data centers, all on the taxpayer's dime. Now, everything sounds like they've taken care of we know that things happen. We don't plan on accidents, but they do happen. And all the people who have spoken before me and what I've been reading, bad things can happen, and I think this is a dangerous thing to say yes to. Somebody on the board tonight said something about legal obligations. They're following all their legal obligations. And I just wonder if you're thinking about the obligations to all the people who are here tonight who have a certain view about this and what all the previous people have spoken so well about the possible dangers. I think this is something that should be shelved and waited until another time when if things turn out to be safe. And the other thing I wanted to say was that Orange and Rockland, well, first of all, water used at power plants that supply the electricity for the data centers can be many times, electricity can be as many times as great as the water used in the data center themselves. Orange and Rockland and Veolia have a stake in this passing.
Thank you, ma'am.
Henry Leakey?
My name is Henry Leaker. I live at 140 Main Street, Nyack. I want to say thank you to the members of the town board. The rapid expansion of data centers has become a momentous point of contention at the national, state, and local levels. I understand that elected representatives such as yourselves must address the concerns of your constituents while also making sure that we don't abandon long-term prosperity for short-term satisfaction. The allure of technology like these data centers gave us the promise of convenience, of unfettered convenience, leisure, and access, but it was a lie. These data centers pollute our waters and stress our energy infrastructure. They siphon value from our community while delivering nothing in return. In fact, it is us who end up footing the bill for the greed of corporate elites. We've been here before. We let data centers take hold in Orangetown to increase our prosperity via corporate investment, but that was a lie too. Instead, we have higher power bills, unbearable noise and light pollution, and significant threats to our public green spaces. All of these are only intensifying the affordability and climate crisis currently crippling our country. If we allow these data centers to expand, these crises will only worsen. Because of this, I urge you all and tell you that you must decline this data bank application. You have a choice to make. You have the opportunity to deliver common sense policy with broad bipartisan support that will deliver desperately needed support to your struggling constituents. You have a moral responsibility to meet this pivotal moment and support those under your charge. You have the opportunity to support those who are the victims of environmental and economic injustice and to protect our precious air, land, and water. The choice is clear. The public does not want these data centers. These data centers have already harmed this community, and any expansion of these data centers will only intensify that harm. I urge you to do the right thing by the people in this room, the whole of your constituency, and the future generations of Orangetown. Thank you, board members.
Vanessa Lappins.
Vanessa Lappins, 659 Western Highway, Blauvelt, Coupon, Hamlets of Orangetown. I'm a frequent flyer. Thank you to the Planning Board for your POSDEC vote tonight. The DEC permits are now not required, but wetlands matter. The current plan destroys the existing wetland as a strategy to deal with the lack of parking. This is a poor choice for our community. The developer is using the current issue with the DEC regulations to get around any requirement to preserve the wetland. On a DEC webinar dated June 23rd, the DEC made it clear that these regulations will be back in force. They are not abandoning this effort to protect us. The existing detention area, which has become naturalized, will also be reworked. This is also a poor choice for our community. The outflow of the new basin is set to discharge water with pesticides, herbicides, and other chemicals into a stream bed that connects to Lake Tapan. That's what the latest plans show. I know we talked about that wouldn't exist, but that's what the plans show today. This is a drinking water issue for our New Jersey neighbors. Building on a wetland goes against the comprehensive plan, and the plan specifically recommends enhancing the area around Lake Tapan. We currently have 5 data centers in Orangetown. This significant expansion joins plans to significantly expand J.P. Morgan and One Ramlin Road. The Rockland County Business Journal just reported new activity in a Warwick data center that is also on the Orange and Rockland grid. Communities are rushing to press pause until we understand the cumulative effects on infrastructure and environment. DataBank has offered no energy mitigation strategies. There is no guarantee that GPUs won't replace the CPUs that are there now, requiring significantly more power. We talk about no additional substation build-out. This board just saw a presentation for a build-out of a new substation on Route 303 at 524 Route 303. So we have to, again, cumulatively look at the impact of all of this on our community. Why would we consider this now when everything points to pressing pause here in Orangetown, as indicated by our own moratorium in progress? Further enriching the developer is not reason enough to move forward with this project. Thank you.
Ashling M. Sickletown Road, Ashling M. John S. Rutgers Road.
Yes, hi, good evening. My name is Jonathan Schatz. I'm from 186 Rutgers Road East in Orangeburg, New York.
You want to spell your last name, please?
Yeah, S-C-H-A-T-Z. Thank you. It's about probably a couple hundred feet away from this proposed site. I work as an electrical engineer for transmission and distribution projects globally, and I kind of find that this proposal is not showing anything regarding generation sources for this project. They're kind of championing that there is just a removal of a substation, like it benefits the people here when it really not. Multiple data centers have proposals that they include renewable energy sources like on-site renewable energy like solar panels and stuff like that and battery storage facilities, and they do not here. Another thing that people don't really like to think about is that the data centers are on 24/7, and it's a constant load on the community there. So that is just something that I would hope the board takes into account. I don't want to take too much time and echo what others have said before, but thank you.
Seeing nobody else is signed up, if you'd like to speak, please raise your hand. Yes. Please come up and give us your name and your address and spell your last name, please.
Maybe when they're done talking, they can sign
I'm
in.
not seeing any signing sheet.
Is it there? Someone walk away with it?
Leave the sign-in sheet there. When they get done talking, they can go and sign it. This way we keep everybody going. Ma'am, when you get done talking, please go sign in over there.
I will.
State your name and address now.
Sure. My name's Qi Fan.
spell
First
that
name Qi, last name Fan.
Start again, sorry.
Qi Fan. First name Qi, last name Fan.
Great, and your address?
34 Corrigan Way, Ottapan, New Jersey.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to follow up on Mr. Carey's comments regarding whether Data Bank conducted a 5-year study on the environmental impact of the existing data bank data center. So their answer is no. However, I can provide a real-world example of the impact that data center operations have on nearby residents. I would like to play a video that I recorded on May 7th in my backyard. What you are about to hear is the noise from the Bloomberg data center located directly behind our backyard. These generators test occur every other Thursdays and once a month on Saturdays. The generators begin running at 7:30 in the morning and continue for approximately 8 hours without interruption. This is not a theoretical environmental impact study. This is a reality that residents living next to this facility experience on a regular basis. If the town truly wants to understand the environmental impact of data centers on neighboring community, I respectfully request that AKRF professionals conduct independent measurements of both noise levels and air pollution generated by the existing Bloomberg facility while the generators are operating. Specifically, I request that noise monitoring that conducted at multiple residential property lines that within backyards using calibrated equipment with results reported in decibels. So for if I understand correctly, Data Bank Phase 2 would add 8 more generators on top of the generators installed in Phase 1 and the 6 generators already operating at Bloomberg. Before approving additional expansion, I believe it is essential to fully understand the cumulative impact that these facilities are already having on surrounding neighbors. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
If you'd like to speak, please raise your
Anybody
hand.
else? Yes, sir. Step up, state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Matthew Heinlein. I live at 38 Corrigan Way in Old Tapan.
Just spell your last name for me.
Sure, Heinlein.
Thank you.
I live directly adjacent to the data center that's being proposed. I have 2 kids under the age of 2, one that's 9 weeks old. The reason I mention that is she, as you might expect, still sleeps in our bedroom. This was the view, I should have enlarged it, but from our bedroom a couple of months ago, and that's the lights from phase 1, which is even further from my house than phase 2 would be. Now, this is not every night. I will absolutely say this does not happen every night, but I don't know what happened that specific night, but this is the amount of light into our bedroom windows from the data bank. I'm also very concerned about the noise, as my neighbor just played for you guys. It's something that we live with all the time. AKRF's letter points out that the increment over quiet existing nighttime conditions is, quote, likely to be readily noticeable and, quote, intrusive, and states plainly that, quote, the noise analysis to date does not provide a convincing argument that the project's noise would not rise to the level of a significant impact. And I appreciate you guys declaring the positive deck tonight on the impact front. But stepping back even further, I still struggle to understand why the planning board is even considering this project. The economic case simply does not hold up. Most strikingly, in Databank's EAF prepared by Kimberly Horn, Databank states that the estimated phase 2 tax generation, as we heard earlier, is only $171,427. That is an incredibly low number, directly from Databank. So I ask very seriously, who actually wants this? Because it isn't for the town for tax money, and it obviously is not the community. Databank undoubtedly stands to profit, but why should Orangetown accept the environmental, infrastructure, and quality of life risks associated with a project of this scale for such a limited return? And finally, the reality is we should not even be here discussing phase 2 in the first place. The understanding around the original approval was clear. There would not be a phase 2 build-out as part of approving phase 1. We heard that again from several parties, including a former Rockland County Planning Board member at the last meeting. Forget the legal loopholes that are being argued now about the technical language. The understanding from the town, the county, and everyone involved in that approval process was crystal clear. There would be no phase 2. That goes to the land bank parking as well. This is a massive 24/7 industrial facility consuming enormous grid power, creating few permanent jobs, and introducing significant environmental risks and noise. Nearby residents already live with the impacts of phase 1. Please do not ask us to bear even more. Please deny this application. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else wish to speak on this? Lady sitting down, please. You had your hand up first. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. Kirsten Broderick, 154 Hudson Terrace in Piermont. First of all, thank you all very much, and especially the constituents. My phone has died, so I'm working from memory and not my prepared remarks. First, on the note of a closed-loop system, we have a number of engineers in here. Closed loop is a fallacy. You can look it up for the engineering. There is always, it's inefficient at best, and that's even at a small scale. The larger it scales, the more those inefficiencies scale with it. So closed loop is a fallacy. Second, they brought up the note of misinformation on the internet. As you can tell, we are all informed. I'm a trained economist. I have multiple masters. I know how to check my references. And a simple look at the existing, because data centers have been around for a long time, well before AI, of impact studies from multiple universities, from Yale. You can look on Science Direct. Again, I don't have my references, I apologize. But there are well-documented negative impacts to the environment, the economy, and electricity, water, et cetera, and on the communities themselves. It is the one thing that is uniting our nation right now. I love what someone else said earlier, that you all have the opportunity to be our heroes right now, because this community does not want this. This community that you serve, that we are, we don't want this. The economics aren't there. Like, we all know this already. But to that point about data, and facts and statistics. What we do know from the history of economics and for-profit companies, when you go to everything from Philip Morris, DuPont, 3M, other companies, they are serving their board of directors and CEO, their job, and we know from the history of for-profit corporations have a long history of subverting any negative impact data, of obfuscating, right, any of the data that does not support their cause, and ultimately lying and tricking the public long term, and then later on you see the negative effects of DuPont, 3M, Philip Morris. We all know about the big tobacco case and how it took multiple coordinated effort of DAs around the country to actually take down their misinformation tactics. So if anyone's going to talk about misinformation, I would question their statistics, and as they said, they're quoting just their own research, right? Their own publication that they made. So please do question their data, because it's more likely that they're misinformed or misrepresenting the data than any of us who can do, we're smart people here, right? That's all. Thank you for being our heroes.
Thank you. Please sign in. No, sign over there. Okay. Anyone else? Yes, please. Step up. State your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ocean Scheiden. Do I have to state my address? Do I legally have to state my address? I've lived in Nyack. I've lived in Pearl River. I have lived in Sloatsburg. I have lived in every aspect of Rockland County my entire life. My mother has lived in Rockland County her entire life. We've seen this county nosedive in quality.
Excuse me, could you just spell your name?
SCHEYD. I would like my 3 seconds back. We have seen this county nosedive in quality rapidly, and AI data centers, data banks, are one of the problems. While I don't have numbers, I don't have statistics on me, I'm speaking off the cuff from lived experience, living in this county, and also being a result of people telling me when I was growing up, I experienced T-cell leukemia due to Roundup. And when I was told that that wasn't the case, years later with the class action lawsuit proving that Roundup lied about their information that it does not cause cancers, I missed that case, and that was something that I had to rebuild back later on in life. When you're talking about the unopportune people, you mean the poor, the people that are poor in this county that can't afford to build back, that can't afford the medical bills that are going to come with it, that can't afford the electric bills, that can't afford to get water separate from the water that should be coming out of their faucet that's supposed to be clean. I say this because I look at all the people in here and they're just saying no. Even if the data centers doesn't do any of these things at all, and we all say no, it should be a fucking no, because you're supposed to serve us. And you're grown up. You can listen to profanity. Calm down. I am acting properly. Actually, I think we're all here acting real properly. The fact that we don't want this, and I don't think we want to experience any of the medical problems that have not been brought up. There have been many cancer cases that have been coming up that have no treatment, that have no cure, that are going to rapidly take over this community. Unless you like dead voters, because then no one can vote you out, right? When people are hungry and homeless and thirsty and sick, you'll be surprised how just enough people is just enough that you should be afraid of. Fuck you!
Is she going to sign that one? Yeah, I did.
Yes, anybody else wish to speak, please?
She didn't sign the form.
Hi, I'm Kira Birch. I live at 73 Hunt Road. I'm a neighbor of the data center.
What's your first name? What's your first name?
Kira, K-E-I-R-A, Birch, B-U-R-T-C-H.
Thank you.
I agree with much of what I heard tonight, and I reiterate that. I also would like to thank the community, larger community of Rockland, for what they have come to join us to help us. You are also part of this community. I hope that you will join us who are the local, closest neighbors and help us. I would like to see this not be there. I can hear, like my other neighbor who had the recording, I can hear it from my back deck from Data Center 1. And I really don't want Data Center 2, which is going to be even closer. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I will be respectful of you, and I'm sorry for the outburst.
Thank you very much. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Karen, go over and sign in. Thank you. State your name and address for the record, sir.
Hi, my name is Ryan Siegel. I live at 25 Bogart Place, Tapan. I just want to speak on a few issues that I don't think were previously mentioned. I also want to give that my background is in geology and hydrology. I worked for a consulting company that did remediation on Superfund sites and such, and I believe it was said that groundwater was not an issue to look into for the environmental site assessment, and I am baffled that it would be. Anything with diesel and the concern of being next to a reservoir absolutely should be a concern to look into groundwater contamination. Plus, looking at a closed loop system, they're not going to use the same water the entire time. That has to be flushed and then refilled. And even if it doesn't, then that's probably not a good look for them. But anything to do with contaminant, especially on a reservoir, absolutely needs to be looked into for groundwater, and saying that groundwater is not a concern is just wrong. Just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. State your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Chris Sweeney. I am from Pearl River. I live at 202 Hobart Street, Pearl River, and I didn't really plan what to say. I'm a little bit hungry because I skipped dinner like a lot of you people to be here, and I want to say thank you first and foremost to all the residents who are here. You obviously love Orangetown as much as I do. What I am asking for all of you to come here after work. I met a man outside with a 6-week-old baby who came directly from work, and he stayed as late as he could until he needed to give his wife some reprieve and go home. That is how much we love Orangetown. I know many of you up here, I've been in Pearl River for 25 years. How much do you love Orangetown? How much do you love Orangetown? What's going to happen in 10 years? Technology will change. We are already national news now because we oversaturated our town. Honestly, how did you let this happen? How did the town board let this happen? For more than 10 years, we knew we had one, we knew we had two. We don't need to be the dumping ground of data centers because now we're national news. That big article that came out about how many millions went for 7 jobs was the highest ratio of money to lowest amount of jobs. I am begging you, please, to stop this in whatever way you can. We are national news now. Like, what does that even do to our property value? If I'm a new family and I'm looking to move, do I want to move to Data Central? Not really. And what is going to happen to these massive buildings down the line when they're vacant, and what's going to happen then? Anyway, sorry also to the people, I really feel for the people that live with these noise, and I would love to challenge anybody on the planning board to go sit outside one of these houses on a weekend, on a Thursday, when this noise runs, because that really takes away the joy of your house. You probably all like to sit on your deck to have this noise come, and I apologize, but I was one of the people who had to wait outside till his seat opened up, which brings me to my next point. If this was already, or if I heard this incorrectly, did somebody say it's better to have noise 24/7 than like intermittent noise? Like a start and stop noise? I thought somebody here said that, but anyway, that would be awful. Any of those things are awful. And I'm wondering, since so many people weren't allowed in, can we move the next meeting to a bigger venue? I know in the past it's gone to TZ High School, which holds hundreds of people. I don't understand how it only holds 102 in this building, with Orangetown has more than 30,000 people in it. But anyway, also, if anybody, if this data moves you, anybody here who came in the crowd or is listening, please consider running for office in 2027 and beyond. Town council appoints people to planning boards. These are really important small things, so please consider that. Thank you.
Ma'am, please go over and sign in. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir. Yes. You be next. Don't worry about it. Okay.
Hi, good evening. My name is Pat Kopak, 42 Ashwood Drive,
Pat,
Blauvelt,
just
New
spell
York.
your last name for me. Pat, spell your last name for me, Pat.
Kopac. This country is already oversaturated with 5,000 surveillance data centers. That is 4,500 more than any other country. These are, in fact, massive factories that inflict irreversible harm. These mega factories cause power grid strains that will lead to frequent power outages, pollute the water supply, harm protected wetlands, create injurious noise pollution, release harmful nitrogen oxide particles into the air, 200 to 600 times more than a natural gas plant, release cancer-causing forever chemicals when the closed-loop system is treated with caustic chemicals, and then find their way into the landfill and then the water supply. And they also spew the most powerful pollutant of them all, methane gas. Also, the location of this expansion could not be any worse. In fact, it is unthinkable. For God's sake, there's a playground next door and Little League fields. It would be evil to approve this. Did you hear me? It's evil to approve this. When you, the members of the town board and planning board, and your children and your grandchildren start suffering health problems, will the town board hold the company accountable then to pay your medical bills? Data centers also cause residents' utility bills to skyrocket. The Honorable Governor Stein of North Carolina spoke articulately on this point. Do we really want to subsidize with tax breaks data centers' consumption of energy and electricity when they make everyone else's power bills go up? It doesn't make any sense to me, he said. Well, it doesn't make any sense to me either. Additionally, according to Reuters News, 6/9/2026, New York State's electricity reserves have shrunk over the last 5 years, leaving our state at risk of falling short of energy needed to power homes due to electrification of large industrial users, amongst them data centers. Furthermore, data centers require significant amounts of water for cooling. Our neighboring town, Park Ridge, New Jersey, has currently enacted drought conservation measures until September 2026. When we reach drought proportions, what I really want to know is, will you, the members of the town board planning committee, and will the town board members pour your cup of water into the machines? Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Ma'am, please go over by the desk and sign in. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, my name is Anthony Morrow. My address is 160 North Main Street in New City. I'd like to ask the people at DataBank, why aren't you building these centers in your own backyards? I agree with a lot that was said from the other public statements before, so I don't want to reiterate anything. I also would like to add on that LLMs such as ChatGPT have been shown by an NIH study to cause cognitive decline in people who use it a lot. So in addition to all of the health concerns, environmental concerns, and cognitive concerns, I fail to see any net positive in building this data center, and the fact that so many of your constituents are so against it, I ask you to decline this. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, ma'am. Please step up. Yes, ma'am.
Sorry. There you go. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, what's your
Good.
name?
You know, finally I got my chance to talk, and I'm surprised there's still people here. And I have to thank Asha Velamati.
You have to spell that for me.
ASHA, and the last name is VELAMATI.
Thank you. What's your address?
Valley Cottage. Okay. Now, a lot of information has been given, and I'm not going to give you all that again. I had written a list of questions that I needed answers to. Unfortunately, technology, I'm technically challenged and I couldn't print it out. But let me see if I can remember. One is the DEP review, which a lot of people have mentioned. Is that up for public review? Is there a the environmental protection review of their project?
I don't understand, ma'am.
Oh, okay. No, because all the, whether it's the wetlands or the coastal lines, they have to be reviewed by the Environmental Protection Department. And you're having the project right on the border of New York and New Jersey, and you got the New Jersey DEP as well as the New York DEP to review their project to see how it's going to impact the land, the area, the wetlands, the wildlife, the protection for our area. So that's what I was looking at. And also, they have mentioned something about using less water than vineyards and farmers. Of course, farmers will give them as much water as they need because we need to eat. And wine, of course, I can use some wine right now with all this pain. So, but a lot of numbers that they have given are comparatively wrong in the sense that they are comparing to the wrong they're not relative to what the project is. I won't go into all the details because there are too many numbers and I don't have them with me. But one of the other things is a question that was never asked, the profit motive. Their profits, will those profits come to the Orangeburg residents and the New York residents? And also, what 171,427,000 whatever, those taxes, are they worth it for this project to be in this location? And my question is, it's a company from Phoenix. What is their interest in coming all the way to Orangeburg and setting up their project on reservoir? So that's one of my main concerns, why they're doing it, coming all the way here to set it up. There are a lot more.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. But there are a lot more, but...
Please go over and sign them. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Geraldine Collins. I live at 62 Minuteman Circle, Orangeburg. I wanted to say I oppose the Data Bank Orangeburg Phase 2 for all the reasons the previous speakers have addressed this evening. Thank you.
Hey, thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Yeah, I see you over there.
Jim Coffey, 139 Hunt Road, Coffey. I just want to say no to Phase 2. Make it very simple. No. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Melody Fiore, Fiore, 99 Hunt Road, Orangeburg, New York. I'm not scripted tonight, so...
Speak into the microphone,
yes,
please.
Let me get back to the mic. I thank you all for the positive declaration. I am amazed at the turnout. I am very sorry that this didn't happen during Phase 1. You've all heard me during Phase 1 with saying pretty much what everyone has said here, so I'm not going to repeat all that. I just want to bring up, and I've waited to the end because I didn't want to discuss this, well, anyway, data bank. I have the emergency exit running along my property line. because the trees had to come down, and I am opposite the sewer pump station, which I smell all the time, and I see, and I also hear that generator once every week. I don't complain about it. But all those trees were removed, and those trees were planted, many of them by Tom Kleiner and Rondello at the time, to mitigate the smell and the noise that was going to be facing my property. That sewer pump station is about 300 feet from me. So DataBank was kind enough to say they would put trees along that entire road. And that also goes to Jim Coffey's property also. The problem is these trees were too small. They were too far apart. They are dying. They have not been maintained. His are being strangled. Mine are being eaten by deer. DataBank did come and replaced some of them, removed some, but replaced a few, but didn't replace the ones that they removed. It's also not maintained in any way. They're not growing. The property, and I have to bring this up, during phase one, that road, it was always decided, we were back and forth. Was it the town's property or was it Verizon's property? The town's of Verizon. And finally, they decided with documentation that it was DataBank's. Well, if it's DataBank's, that road, that emergency road, which is actually the easement between my property and the sewer pump station, somebody has to maintain it. We've already had a problem this winter because it wasn't looked at. DataBank had told me they were going to come at least 4 times a year, seasonally. No one checks it. The trees are dying. They need to be maintained. I have no buffer anymore. So I am asking DataBank to come back, replant trees, plant bigger trees, and maintain them. Wrap them with fencing so the the fabric fencing so the deers don't eat it. I can't tell you how awful it is. I hear the noise from them. Today I heard the noise. I see them, and I'm just asking for some consideration here. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. Please come up, state your name and address.
So it's Nana Yoga. It's JNANAYOGA, my first name. Last name Gross, GROSS. And I live in Piermont, New York. I work 9 to 5. I commute to the city. I'm very tired and hungry, but I just want to say, people don't like to be lied to. They don't. And we elect people to represent us and be fair. So please, take that into consideration. I don't have a lot of time. I work in a law office in immigration. I'm very tired with what's going on. It's really bad. But I come because I care. I love Rockland County and where I live. And I think people deserve to live, in a space where they can rest when they come home from work. I'm sure you do too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ma'am, please go over and sign in. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this project? One more time. Anybody else wish to speak on this project? All right, motion to close the public session?
Motion to close public portion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Done. Okay, that's basically it. We have some other work to do. Guys, I don't know what you want to do. You know where you are right now. You have a lot of work to do, and that's all I can say to you. All right? Thank you very much. Okay, that's it. We have some other minutes, work to do. But the meeting is over. Okay? Thank you.
Yeah, Ms.
Yes,
Warren,
sir.
just one thing, I can appreciate the public coming out and voicing their opinion. I lived in a small town my whole life and can, no matter on if it's a commercial development, industrial development, multifamily, I can appreciate them voicing their opinion. I do want the public to know that we're just not your normal developer. We're here. We want to partner with the public. We want to be here. We don't want to be the bad guy. We want to help support the Little League like we did in the last phase, where we helped go in and change out lights and redo the dugout. when the local folks from the New York's Orangetown residents come and say, hey, there's issues with lights, and 2 meetings ago, immediately within the next day, I took corrective action with my operations team, and we rectified that. We heard the public, we listened to the public. I did take some notes. I continue to hear a lot of misconceptions versus facts. I can't change that. I can't change that about people's thoughts about data centers. I can't change that about people's thoughts about data bank. What I would like to do, though, is leave these copies of our ebook, The Truth About Data Centers, with Audrey, and make them available to the public. They can do whatever they want with them, but I highly suggest they just take a look, because I think they can answer quite a bit of their own questions and some of those misconceptions. Yeah, and this is published by us, but this is across the national portfolio. We are in 27 active markets, so it's not specific to Orangeburg, but it's specific about our product offering domestically.
No, I know there were some misconceptions on certain things and everything else, and I know we've brought it up before, like batteries and water and things like that. And I think you're just going to have to be a little bit more specific on it so that you know.
Sure, yeah. I mean,
you
even
can tell everybody.
Just a couple bullet points for you. I've heard some numbers thrown out there about our power consumption being double what we're saying. I don't know where that data or that metric's coming from. I think they need to look at the tangible data that's published, whether it's through Orange and Rockland, whether it's through the applications we've submitted. There's been questions about batteries, there's been questions about fire suppression, et cetera. I just think that if some of the folks were able to educate themselves a little more on some of those matters, it'd be a little different approach in the scenario here.
Okay. All right.
So in terms of next steps, you guys probably expect that we have to provide you with the draft scope, I'm assuming, to AKRF. So is that what they're expecting? Just so I know, 'cause normally the applicant would prepare the draft scope, submit it to AKRF, and then submit to your board. Is that what I don't hear them, so if they're...
Yes, sorry, didn't pick up.
Yeah. And that's what we'll do.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. Well, no, because we still have, we're doing, Audrey, we're doing minutes? Yeah. A couple of minutes, let everybody clear out a little bit. I think they got everybody.
Can you take it outside? We still have other business to take care of.
Okay, yes.
As corrected.
Okay, can I have a motion to approve June 24th minutes as corrected?
Motion to approve June 24th minutes as amended.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Andy, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. Motion to adjourn?
Motion adjourned.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you.
Wasn't there? No.
Oh, what is this? What's that up there?
What's that?
What is
That's
that?
the microphone. Those people over there spying on us. That's why we don't talk.